And we are back with Book 10, The Dungeons of Torgar. We have died 88 times. Much of those deaths were in the last book because that book was just dumb. It was a good book until the final boss. The final boss is just unrealistic to beat even if you've got max combat skill. So it's forced to change. From now on, I just take max dice rolls when setting up my character because you can't win if you don't. All that happens is you just have a low level character, you just die in the book and restart until you get good odds. I mean, you can think of it as akin to like Baldur's Gate and stuff, where at the beginning of the game you would just roll dice as many times as you liked until you got the stats you wanted. We're just skipping the actual re-rolling thing to save time. So it's still within the rules of the game. You know, it's not going any higher than 9. 9 is the max. Alright, so story so far. You are the warrior Lone Wolf, last of the Kai Masters of Summerland and sole survivor of the massacre that destroyed your kinsmen during a bitter war with your age-old enemies, the Dark Lords of Helgadad. Most of this has been repeated over and over again. Just saying that we need to find the Lore Stones. And we've already found like 3 of them. And then this happened. And then we found the Lore Stone that was underneath Tahu. And then we got the Lore Stone, we defeated Zakhan. But before he died, he said there's 3 more Lore Stones and he has them. And we need them. We are now sure that what he saw was the arrival of the stolen Lore Stones, said Iramoa, speaking on behalf of the High Council. They radiate a goodness so strong that Gnag could not hold them in the Darklands, but had to move them to Torgar. There, his sorcerers, the Nadziranim, are searching for the means to destroy them. The black art of the Nadziranim has grown powerful of late, and we fear they may achieve the task set them by Gnag. Therefore, we must act quickly and with utmost secrecy if the Lore Stones and the Magnakai quest are to be saved. The Elder Magi had already made preparations for your secret journey to Eru, where, upon your arrival, Prince Gregor will help you reach the grim city of Torgar. The thought of having to enter the terrible Drakirim stronghold fills you with dread, but you pledge to destroy the Dark Lords and restore the Kai, strengthens your resolve and helps you suppress your fear. On the eve of your journey to Eru, the Elder Magi convene a special meeting of the High Council to pray for the success of your mission. You're going to need more than prayers. For several hours they kneel in prayer until finally they arise and intone the blessing that has sustained you in the past. May the gods Ishia and Kai protect you on your journey into darkness, Korskan. Alright, so we have weapon mastery. We can take another weapon mastery, let's say spear or something. Alright, we've got curing. We've got Psy Surge. So I would take Hunt Mastery, because that gives us the extra combat as well. Right. What shall we take? We could take 5 things. Oh, Potion of Aletha is very good. Definitely take that. How many arrows do we have? 4 arrows. We can always take more. Okay, we'll take another quiver. We already have a lantern. We'll take... Do we have a rope? No. Take a rope. Take a potion. Just take the other lantern, why not? Alright. So we are now primate. And we've got the circle of fire. So with primate, we get this upgraded curing, upgraded hunt mastery, upgraded size surge. Ooh, interesting. We can destroy objects or disrupt them with our mind. Okay. Alright. We begin. Let me just get my coffee. It is dawn on Midsummer's Day when you ride out to Tahu. Since your victory over Zakan's Chimera, your appearance in a public place has been enough to provoke spontaneous cheering from the Tahuese, who regard you as their savior. But on this warm, sunny morning you leave the city unnoticed, for on this occasion you appear to be just another messenger. The army uniform you wear and the white horse you ride are part of an elaborate deception conceived by the Elder Magi. In order to make Dark Lord Gnag believe you are returning to Summerland, you have been given your Kai cloak and tunic to your friend Banadon. Disguised as you, he will leave for Summerland aboard his flying ship Skyrider this afternoon. A formal ceremony is planned to mark his departure, and another awaits his arrival at the King's Citadel in Holmgard. Gnag has vowed to kill you. It is a vow which has become an obsession that torments him like a poisoned wound. It is hoped that Banadon's much publicized flight home will lure Gnag's vengeful eyes away to the north and raise your chances of success at Torgar considerably. Clearly Banadon's gonna get killed. Your ride ends in Firina, where you catch a barge downriver to the port of Talon. There you hear news of a rebellion in Barakish, the Vasagonian capital, and reports of the sudden withdrawal of all Vasagonia's troops from the lands she invaded early in the war. It bodes well for the continuing struggle against the Dark Lords, for Vasagonia was their only major ally. You spend one night in Talon before buying passage aboard a merchantman on its way from the Tentarius, along the Tentarius. 5 days later you disembark at Garthen, the capital of Telestria. Telestria was overrun in the early days of the war, but the neighboring country of Palmyrian came quickly to her aid. The armies of Telestria and Palmyrian united and fought the invading horde, led by warlord Zegron of Ogia, on the battle plains to the north of Garthen. For 3 days and 3 nights a bitter struggle raged, and the allies were sorely pressed to withstand the overwhelming numbers of the enemy ranged against them. But on the morning of the 4th day, the unexpected arrival of the dwarven army of Bor was to seal Zegron's doom. His mighty force crumbled, and the survivors, fleeing northwards in chaos, were pursued relentlessly. The latest news tells of the allies' capture of Zanar, a major Ogian stronghold, and their continued advance westward along the Blackshroud Trail. The royal court of Queen Evane would be honored to assist you. The secrecy is paramount to the success of your quest, and so you shun the royal palace and take lodgings instead at a humble dockside tavern. There you arrange transportation to Eru aboard a brigantine bound for Humboldt, the Eruan capital, and leave next day on the noontide. Upon your arrival, you make your way to the city's ancient quarter where the Elder Magi have arranged a clandestine meeting with Prince Gregor. In the cellar of a disused warehouse, the young prince waits patiently for your coming. Like you, he is dressed in the clothes of a messenger in order that he can walk the streets of his city incognito. He welcomes you with a salute. bringing his hand diagonally across his chest, and assures you that your true identity is known only to him. For over an hour, you discuss your plans and listen to the prince recount some of the events that have disturbed the peace of Eru. 2 years ago, Drakarim renegades from the Hammerlands attacked and overran his northern city of Luomi. The inhabitants were slaughtered, and the holy temple of Luomi, around which the city was founded, was looted and burnt to the ground. Only recently did he learn from the Elder Magi that the ancient temple held the Lawstone of Luomi, one of the 3 Lawstones now locked in Torgar. At the time of the attack, the prince's army was too small to repel the invaders, and he was forced to abandon the city as well as the bordered town of Tsetsa. But in the past month, he has joined forces with King Sarnak of Lenchia, and together they have recaptured Luomi and driven Baron Shinzar and his Hammerland rebels all the way back to Setsa within 30 miles of the border. The prince invites you to accompany him to Luomi, where he is to resume command of his army and lead them to battle. He provides you with a fine Eruan steed and a new disguise that will enable you to travel through Eru without drawing undue attention to yourself. Dressed as an Eruan pathfinder, one of an elite unit of woodsmen who operate in the harsh territories bordering the Hellswamp, you ride north with the prince's entourage and arrive at the city 5 days later. Every house, stable, tavern, and municipal building are filled to overflowing with knights and men-at-arms, but despite their cramped billets and meager rations, the soldiers of Eru and Lencha are in good spirits, for tomorrow they march against a foe they have already beaten in battle, and most are eager to finish the job once and for all. You are given lodgings within the main citadel of Luomi, and later that evening, after the prince has attended a war conference with King Sarnak, you meet in private to discuss the next stage of your quest. There are 2 ways to reach Torgar, says the prince, as you study the map given to you by the Senate of Tahu. You can cross the river Brawl and make your way northwards through the Mogador forest, or you can go to Percy and seek out Seb Jarrell. He is the leader of a brave band of partisans who have ambushed and resisted the Dracarium ever since they invaded. If there is a path to Torgar between the Hellswamp and the Isle of Ghosts, he will know it. You ponder the choices and wonder why the prince has not suggested the simplest route of all, north along the Isle of Ghosts. When you mention this, he shakes his head ominously. The isle is cursed, he says, pointing at the map with an accusing finger. Few have ever come out of that dreadful place alive, and of those poor wretches who have survived, only one has kept a grip of his sanity. His name is Seb Jarrell. Next day, you rise with the dawn and prepare to set off on your journey to Torgar. There are 2 routes open to you. You can ride to Percy and seek out Seb Jarrell, the partisan leader, or the only man who can guide you through this treacherous wilderness, or you can accompany Prince Gregor to battle at Setsa. If his army beats the Dracarium and forces them to retreat, the way across the River Brawl will be open, and you will be able to approach Torgar under cover of the Mogador forest. I like the idea of meeting Seb Jarrell, so we'll do that. Also, alright. Just grab my coffee. Before leaving Luomi, the prince gives you a signet ring that bears his royal crest. By wearing... Oh, so the maximum is 12 items of special items. I never knew that. Well, that's never been a problem. By wearing the ring on your right hand, you signify that you have the friendship of the royal court, something that may prove valuable when trying to persuade Seb Jarrell to aid in your quest. You exchange farewells with Prince Gregor before checking your equipment and setting off on the dusty road to Percy. The road itself is a little better than a dirt track that cuts across open grassland towards a wide, muddy river. Awkward heaps of grey stone dot the unkempt landscape. They are the deserted ruins of farmsteads and houses destroyed during the Dracarim occupation. After an hour in the saddle, you arrive at the river at a point where a wide stone bridge spans its murky waters. A fire-blackened watchtower and a roofless stone hut stand at the approach to the bridge. You notice a faint wisp of wood smoke rising from the top of the tower, and a saddled horse grazing close by at the river's edge. Okay, we'll investigate the watchtower. Silently, you dismount and approach the charred tower door. Through the split timbers, you see a man crouching beside a smouldering fire, cooking a bird that is skewered on the point of his dagger. He wears clothes cut from supple leather dyed deep crimson, and coiled on his hip you notice a bullwhip, its braid studded with nuggets of copper. "Join me," he says suddenly, without raising his eyes from the glowing charcoal fire. "There's enough meat on this fledgling for the two of us." And the number of times people have tried to poison me, but, I mean, we can't really be lying in wait. Surely not. We'll accept the offer. You push open the tower door with your foot, and a splash of morning light illuminates the gloomy interior. Slowly the man raises his weather-browned face, and a smile softens his craggy features as he recognizes the uniform you are wearing. "Welcome, Pathfinder," he says, his thick Eroran accent echoing around the empty stone chamber. "I am Halgar of Percy. Come and share my humble feast in celebration of our victory over the Dracarim." He splits the roasted bird in two and tosses half to you. It tastes delicious. "I saw you approaching," he says, wiping away the grease from his mouth with the back of a calloused hand. "And I wagered you would stop to breakfast here. Where are you bound?" You hesitate to answer, but your basic Kai sixth sense tells you that this man is no trickster. "I'm riding to Percy. I've orders to contact Seb Jarrell," you reply, hoping he will offer to tell you where the partisan leader may be found. Holgar narrows his sea-green eyes and strokes his chin thoughtfully. "That ring you're wearing and those clothes of yours look real enough," he says, flicking the bird meat from his dagger. "You don't look like a pathfinder, and you sure don't sound like one neither." Then, without warning, he draws his blackest blade and flings it at your throat. At my throat? Just because I'm not who I say I am? The fuck? Instinctively, you dodge aside, but the dagger gouges your neck before embedding itself in the door behind. The man curses as he pulls free his studded leather bullwhip and lashes out. With deadly accuracy, the plated whip snakes towards your throat. Seriously? Oh, he's quite tough. I mean, we've got the edge here. Halgar falls heavily to his knees and the blood oozing thickly between his fingers as life deserts him. With a gurgling croak, he stiffens and drops sideways into the fire, smothering the embers and filling the air with the smell of scorched leather. At your feet lies a cruelly fashioned bullwhip, and nearby you discover a backpack. Flicking open the buckle, you tip the contents out onto the grimy stone floor. The pack contains the following items. Set into the floor, you discover a wooden trapdoor that gives access to an empty cellar. You hide the body in the cellar before remounting your horse, crossing the bridge, and continuing your ride to Percy. Why did he attack me? Just because I don't look like a Pathfinder? I mean, whatever. We don't need a torch and tinderbox. The road beyond the river takes you into thick forest and a dense canopy of branches arches overhead. A dazzling mosaic of light and shade blankets the trail as it winds like a tunnel through the tall, grey-green trees. Gradually, the trail becomes rougher. New saplings have speared through the stony surface and foliage spills out from the forest on either side. The tunnel ends abruptly at the edge of a steep valley, although the trail itself continues, winding its way down towards a fast-flowing stream. Cautiously, you urge your horse down the twisting path to arrive at a cluster of dilapidated log huts. Rust and rot have taken their toll, but you can still discern the remains of what was once a mining settlement, where men panned for gold. The wooden sign hangs lopsided above an open door, swinging slightly in the breeze. Its paint is cracked, and the panel bears fresh sword scars, but you can still make out the words. It reads, Kaig Settlement. 2 trails lead away from this abandoned mining village. One climbs out of the valley and disappears into the forest. The other follows the stream towards its source among the snow-capped mountains of the Eru Range. Well, we don't really want to go into the snowy mountains. It's going to be cold there. We'll go out of the valley. Stoically, your horse climbs the difficult track out of the valley towards the crest. You hope to catch sight of your destination from this ridge of high ground, but because of the lush foliage, you can see little of what lies ahead. Densely packed trees and bushes reduce visibility to less than a dozen yards. It strikes you as the perfect environment for guerrilla warfare, and you can readily understand how Seb Jarrell and his partisans have managed to ambush and evade the Dracarim so effectively for 2 years. Further along the narrow trail, you come across the grisly remains of one such ambush. A score of severed Dracarim heads, still encased in skull-like helms of black iron, have been impaled upon a line of wooden stakes. They serve as a grim warning of what awaits any Drakkar who dares to venture beyond this point. It is soon after sunset when you arrive at Percy. Fog swirls through the gloomy streets and crooked alleys, but you can see light seeping from chinks in the reinforced shutters and doors of only a few of the cabins. You bring your horse to a halt and dismount beside the steps of a large log hut that serves as both a general store and tavern. Your steed neighs uneasily, drawing your attention to a group of stony-faced men who are advancing along the street. Torches blaze in their work-worn hands, casting a vivid yellow glow in their suspicious eyes as they approach you warily. Their leader, who is dressed in the uniform of an Eruan Pathfinder captain, steps to within inches of your face. Coldly, he stares into your eyes, his jaws set in a rigid sneer of contempt. "Have you forgotten how to salute, soldier?" he growls menacingly. "Or perhaps you're not a Pathfinder after all. Perhaps you're just another skulking Drakirim spy." You notice that several of the men carry bore pistols, primitive but very deadly weapons, especially at such close range. If you are to save your skin, you had best salute the captain immediately. Well, we saw this. You put it across your chest. The prince did it. But the fact that he even suggested that we were a spy would already make him suspicious of us. You'd have thought he'd just be imprisoning us already. The captain grunts his approval and returns your salute. Then he catches sight of your signet ring and suddenly his mood becomes much more friendly. He orders the townsfolk to lower their pistols and return to their homes, and begrudgingly they obey his command. "Come," he says, placing his hand on your shoulder. "You must be thirsty after your day's ride." He pushes open the tavern door and draws aside a tattered leather curtain. A dozen pairs of eyes look towards you as you enter, stare briefly, and then return to their own business. "I see you come to Percy with the prince's favour," says the captain, casting a glance at the ring you wear as you raise the tankard of ale he places before you. "What news do you bring from the royal court?" "I'm here on a mission, a secret mission of great importance," you reply guardedly. "I must speak with Seb Jarrell, but only he can help me accomplish the task. I am at liberty to say no more." The captain looks at you quizzically. "It's unlike Prince Gregor to entrust such responsibility to one of your rank, soldier." "Well, you wouldn't know, would you? Because it's secret. That's why it's called secret. If you expect me to take you to Jarrell, you have first to satisfy me that you are Pathfinder. That bandit Baron Shinza has sent men to find Jarrell before on missions of assassination. I want proof. You're not another one of his agents." He peers over your shoulder towards the tavern bar and signals to the owner by blinking 3 times. The metallic click of a crossbow being cocked and Yokai's sixth sense alert you to the weapon that is now pointed at your back. Tell me, soldier, where were you trained as a pathfinder? Was it in Humboldt, in Shawan, or in Tesla? Well, we've heard the word Humboldt before. With Humboldt. The captain smiles. Then he looks over your shoulder and nods to the owner. That's all? Like, a spy would have done his homework. He would know that. He would know that better than a genuine person, because he'd have done his homework. You hear a thin squeak, followed by a rush of air as the crossbow bolt hurtles towards your back. Yokai senses a scream of warning and you respond by flattening yourself to the table. A look of abject terror barely has time to register on the captain's face before the speeding missile embeds itself between his startled eyes. What? They killed the captain? Get him, screams the owner, and 3 stocky drinkers rush forward with short swords held ready to strike. The first attacker loses his sword and the hand that holds it. As he reels back screaming, the others exchange a fearful glance and halt in their tracks. I think we've got good enough health, we might as well just kill them all. Why not? Oh, we lost too much health there. Okay. We win. You guys had it coming. With a yell, you barge your way through the stunned tavern crowd and kick open the back door. The land behind the building is thickly forested and you run headlong into its welcoming cover. With the angry cries of the Persians rippling through the trees, you curse your ill luck and escape into darkness. Well, they brought it on themselves. They were so suspicious. For no reason. You run without pausing through the shadowy pines until you can no longer hear the cries of your pursuers. The forest is soon swallowed by the night, but guided by your Yokai senses and the occasional rays of moonlight that filter through the densely packed trees, you are able to continue your lonely trek eastwards. You stop at a stream to bathe your face in the cold water and reflect on the bitter irony of your situation. The people you had hoped would help you now pursue you as their enemy. It is a cheerless situation, but you do not allow it to defeat your resolve to reach Torgar and recover the stolen lore stones. Gradually, what begins as a suspicion becomes a nagging certainty that you are being watched. Your senses detect an evil presence lurking in the surrounding trees, and you decide to forego rest and keep moving until dawn. The first rays of dawn light are beginning to lighten the forest when you happen upon a wide gap in the trees. A dark shape, large and rounded like a furry boulder, lies curled up beneath the branches of a pine at the edge of the clearing. In the distance, a crow caws nervously, stirring the shape from its slumber with a half-hearted call of warning. Your pulse quickens as you recognize the outline of a big black bear. A noise to your left diverts your attention from the waking bear, and to your horror you see a pack of leathery black akatas creeping towards you through the undergrowth, their feral eyes aglow with bloodlust as they latch onto your scent. With a howl they leap forward, clawing and biting as they drag you to the ground. Seriously? We're quite damaged. Alright, we'll have to take this potion. But we're pretty hurt. Combat ratio is 0. Oh my god, they hit us for 6? Their attack is so swift and deadly that there's no time to draw a weapon. Well, we are drawing a weapon. The gruesome clack of their fangs fills your ears, and white-hot pain lances through your arms and legs as the Akatas snap shut their powerful jaws. Desperately, you kick and punch, rolling over and over through the undergrowth until you break free of their crushing bite. Weak from loss of blood, you stagger to your feet and unsheath a weapon, just in time to meet their renewed attack. So we get +4 from Mind Blast, so it's doubled. And if we do Sight Search, we add another 4, but we would just die, wouldn't we? Fuck. We can use the Potion of Aletha, we probably should. Alright. Fuck! No, we've lost. Dead. Oh boy. Well, there goes all our star. Alright, I am manually choosing because it's kind of stupid otherwise. Alright. Oh, yeah, we have to start from scratch now. So we're on Dungeons of Torgar. Alright. So we'll go with bow, sword. Always take bow and sword because that sword is very common. And then, I don't know, axe or something. Curing and hunt mastery. Just the usual three. Alright, so we'll take a bow, quiver, sword. That one. And a lantern. A rope would be useful as well, but... Alright. I still want to go to Percy, but we might change it next time. Also, we never looked at the map. Let's have a look. Gatan and surrounding territories. So we are... Where are we? Up here? Yeah. Gatan. Torgar is there. But where are we starting? When you ride out to Tahu, we're just leaving Tahu. Tahu is like... Where's Tahu? Where were we last? Where were we last book? I don't even remember. Alright, well we end in Farina. Then we go to Talon. Oh, Luomi. Alright, well where do we end up? Luomi, I think. So we're in Luomi. At the bottom there, alright. So we want to get to Torgar, and we are currently here in Luomi. So if we go to Percy, we'll find the guy. Alright. Alright, we'll try that again. Go to Percy. Yeah, we'll stop. We'll stop and kill this guy because we get his whip. Alright, take the whip and the torch and the tinderbox and the bottle of water. Alright, and then we go here. So... we could have gone to the forest. Yeah, I still want to go to the forest. And then we salute properly. So we said Humboldt last time. That was wrong. Charwan, Tesla. Let's look at the map. Are these even on the map? Charwan's down here. Alright, we'll go with Charwan. Very well, says the captain. He looks towards the bar and shakes his head. Your muscles tense as you get ready to dive to the floor, but to your relief, all you hear is the owner placing his crossbow on the counter. I shall take you to Jarrell, but you must agree to wear a blindfold. It's a safeguard for your own good as well as his. If you were to be captured and tortured by the enemy, you would be unable to tell them when the partisans are encamped. He summons the owner, who produces a square of black cloth from his pocket and winds it around your eyes. The captain leads you outside and helps you onto your horse, and the two of you set along a secret forest trail. After 2 hours in the saddle, you reach your destination and the blindfold is removed. You rub your eyes and look around you at a campsite nestling in a hollow at the foot of a great snow-capped mountain. It is occupied by a host of partisans who are busy tending their ponies and sharpening weapons dulled by heavy fighting. Your escort helps you to dismount, and you are led through the camp to a cave hidden beneath a huge outcrop of rock. As you enter the cave and follow a torch-lit passage, you hear voices echoing in the distance, and your keen nostrils catch the scent of roasting meat. The passage ends at a curtained archway guarded by two men with spears. They look at you brusquely, as if you were a stray dog, but your escort explains your purpose here, and they stand aside to allow you an audience with their leader, Seb Jarrell. Beyond the curtained arch lies a cabin bathed in the flickering light of a log fire. 5 men sit cross-legged around the fire, carving meat from a boar on a spit suspended over the flames and swilling wine from a wineskin that has passed between them. "What have we here?" says a man with mouse-like features as you appear before them. "A pathfinder, if I'm not mistaken," says another, wiping spilt wine from his chin. "Well, pathfinder, what brings you to our camp?" "I come to seek the help of Seb Jarrell," you reply. "Which one of you is he?" "I am Jarrell," answers the mouse-like man. "How can I aid you?" I think he might be pretending to be him as a cover before they introduce me to the real Jarrell. "My mission is secret," you reply. "If it is to succeed, it is vital that it remains so." You glance at the other men seated around the fire, and they return your glance with suspicion. "They are my brothers. Whatever you wish to say to me can be said in front of them." No, I'm suspicious. Haha! A laugh, deep and guttural, rumbles from the far side of the cavern. "I see Scarlet's play acting ain't good enough to fool you, Pathfinder," says a man who until now has been watching silently in the shadows. As he steps forward, the fire casts a warm glow over his massive frame. He stands over 6.5 feet tall, his face covered by a thick red beard, and he has a shock of bright red hair that cascades over the wolfskin cloak slung over his shoulders. He smiles, his green eyes bright and piercing, set wide beneath an intelligent brow. "Check on the sentries, Scalia," he instructs his lieutenant, "and make sure they've got their wits about them tonight." Obediently, the mouse-like man and his 4 companions leave the chamber. As the curtain is pulled across the archway, the red-haired giant motions you to sit with him at the fire. "I am Jarrell," he says. "What do you want from me?" The partisan leader listens patiently as you recount the many events that led you to seek his help. He sits staring into the fire, his eyes fixed on the flickering flames as he digests every word you say and considers their consequences carefully. At length, having heard your earnest appeal for him to guide you, he raises his eyes from the fire and holds you with their piercing gaze. "You speak with courage and wisdom, Kai Lord. It is rare to find these virtues present so strongly in one so young. The help you beg me to provide could cost my life, yet you offer no reward save the thanks of some distant land and the slender promise of a better age. However, I feel compelled to help you, for in my heart I know you are the one who can deliver us from the perpetual shadow of the Dark Lords." He rises and bids you follow him as he walks to the archway. Come, we must prepare for our journey. The road you wish to travel is perilous and long. We had best set off at the earliest, lest caution and common sense change my mind. Seb Jarrell informs the partisans that he has agreed to guide you through the Hell Swamp. He is careful not to reveal details of your quest, but he does tell them that your mission has royal approval, and, if successful, will strike a major blow against the Drakirium and their Dark Lord masters. At dawn, after a good night's sleep and a hearty breakfast, you mount and ride along a hidden trail that leads to Percy. There you leave your horses, for the next part of your journey through Forest Taintor is too difficult to attempt on horseback. Following traces of a forgotten path, you trek through the blue-grey pines until twilight, when you make stop to make camp for the night. Jarrell volunteers for the first watch while you settle down gratefully on a bed of leaf mold and drift off into a dreamless sleep. It feels as if you have only just closed your eyes when you are woken by the savage and desolate howl of a Taintor wolf. Blinking the sleep from your eyes, you scramble to your feet and reach to your weapons. Stand back to back, whispers Jarrell, his keen eyes peeled for a sign of the beast among the densely packed trees. You remember hearing tales of the Taintor wolves during your travels through Eru, of their cruelty, speed, and savage cunning. At the time, you thought the stories were greatly exaggerated, but now you are not so sure. There, over there, hisses Jarrell, pointing to a knot of pines with the tip of his sword. A scream rises from the darkness, which becomes a howl, high-pitched and horrible. The dark foliage rustles, and then a massive wolf-like creature bursts into view and runs towards you, its eyes rolling and its long yellow fangs gaping wide. Draw an arrow and take aim at the creature's mouth. It howls with devilish glee, drawing back its lips in snarl that reveals a jaw full of fangs, most over 6 inches long. As the smell of its fetid breath fills your nostrils, you release your arrow and send it streaking towards the beast's ghastly maw. Your arrow passes cleanly through the creature's mouth, tearing a jagged hole in its furry jowl. The beast shrieks at the sudden pain and shakes its head, spraying you with thick crimson blood. Maddened by the pain, it snaps its great fangs and rolls its grim yellow eyes as it steadies itself to pounce on you and exact its revenge. Hurriedly, you drop your bow and unsheathe a hand weapon as the wolf springs towards your chest. Alright. Okay, good. 1, 2, 3, 4. We almost... Jarrell appears at your side and delivers a blow that rips open the evil creature's heart, but his timely aid has diverted his attention from the forest where the danger still lurks. A pair of feral eyes glint in the moonlight, and another beast charges forward and flings himself at Jarrell's unprotected back. You lift your weapon and move to strike as the creature comes flying through the air. Owing to the momentum of its attack, you have only one chance to deflect it from your companion. Your blow is strong and deadly accurate. It lays open the wolf's chest and cleaves its heart in two, sending the beast crashing into the dense undergrowth amid the spray of its own foul blood. Breathless with exhaustion, and fearful of what may still be lurking unseen in the shadows, you gather up your equipment and follow Jarrell. He is anxious to get away from the dead wolves before the smell of their blood attracts more of their kind, or worse. Shortly after dawn, you discover a track which winds its way northwards through the rough-barked pines. This old game trail will lead us down to Smuggler's Nook, says Jarrell, chewing on a piece of dried meat he has pulled from his pack. I reckon we should get there this side of noon. His prediction comes true, for it is mid-morning when you arrive at a ragged group of plank huts on the bank of a fast-flowing river. At one time, these shanties were the thriving center of illegal trafficking in gold and gems. The citizens of Percy, who mine these rich resources in the Eru range, used to smuggle their precious cargoes out of the country by boat, choosing to risk the dangers of the Hell Swamp rather than pay the prince's taxes. It was only after the prince decreed the death penalty for such smuggling and employed pathfinders to help enforce his law that the Persians finally gave up their illegal trade. Be right back. Over here, calls Jarrell, pulling open the rot-infested door of a hut at the water's edge. Inside, you see an overturned rowboat with a pair of battered oars shipped underneath. He turns the small craft over and raises it by the stern. Give me a hand, he says, straining to push it forward. You place the oars inside, lift the bow, and help him launch it gently into the river. This brings back some memories, says Jarrell wistfully, though I never thought I'd ever be sharing this little booty runner with a pathfinder. You toss your pack into the boat and take your place opposite the partisan leader as he fixes the oars into position. Then, with a smooth stroke, he propels the boat out into the current and you begin your voyage towards the sinister channels of the Hellswamp. The first day of your voyage is smooth and uneventful. The strong current bears you steadily northwards, and Jarrell is content to allow the boat to drift with the flow, while he enjoys the warm sunshine and your conversation. You learn much about your guide in the land of Eru, and in return you recount the legends of Summerland and tell of your adventures in the realms of Magnamund. Magnamund is what, the whole continent? Yeah. The whole world, I think. The first day of your voyage is smooth and uneventful. The strong current bears you steadily northwards, and Jarrell is content to allow the boat to drift with the flow, while he enjoys the warm sunshine and your conversation. You learn much about your guide in the land of Eru, and in return you recount the legends of Summerland. And tell of your adventures in the realms of Magnamund. I just said that paragraph twice. At dusk, you reach a confluence where the river is joined by another that flows in from the east. Oh man, confluence. I haven't heard that word in a long time. Here the currents are swift and treacherous, but Jarrell steers the boat masterfully and brings it ashore at a muddy beach on the west bank, where a small stone hut stands close to the river's edge. You are dragging the boat up the muddy shore when Jarrell suddenly freezes in his tracks. A movement among the tall grasses that fringe the beach has alerted him to a pair of green, pig-like eyes glinting in the gloom. "Keep still," he whispers fearfully. "It could be a Gorodon." It's probably just a pig. His fears are confirmed as the shadowy creature leaves its hiding place among the grasses and comes crawling down the beach towards you. As the lumbering reptile draws near, your first reaction is to run for the safety of the stone hut, but you are prevented from doing so by the sticky knee-deep mud. The scaly creature raises its horned snout and emits a long croaking growl as the scent of fear wafts towards it on the breeze. Jarrell unsheathes its sword and moves to your side as the monster begins to attack. We halve any endurance losses. Oh, we're at full health. Okay, we're good. Oh damn, we're still losing a lot though. Okay. The grisly reptile writhes and twists until with a final tremor it ceases its convulsions and settles into the mud. Like a hunter eager to claim a trophy, Jarrell climbs astride the dead Gorodon and hacks free the two horns which protrude from its skull. There are potion makers in Humboldt who will pay a grand price for these, he says, wiping his blade on the body of the dead beast. He pockets one and offers the other horn to you. That night, you make camp in a stone hut. It is a little better than a hovel, but at least it provides shelter from the rain, which begins to fall shortly after dark, and is still falling when you set off again at dawn. The dull grey hours pass uneventfully until the wooded shoreline gradually gives way to a wilderness of slime-laden mudflats and twisted, petrified trees. Here, the current is weak, and you are forced to row in order to make progress through the brown, scum-flecked water. Jarrell sits at the prow, his wolfskin cloak drawn close around his shoulders to keep out the chill rain. He stares fixedly ahead as he guides you through the narrow channels that bisect this evil-smelling swamp. Twice you find yourself caught in watery cul-de-sac and have to retrace your course, but as the light begins to fade, you catch sight of an island that promises firm mooring and a place to camp overnight. It feels good to have firm ground beneath your feet once more, even though it is no more than a crusty mudflat supporting a brace of stunted trees. Jarrell ties the boat to one of the twisted trunks and settles down to sleep while you make the first watch. Your rumbling stomach reminds you that you have not eaten today, blah blah blah. The night sounds of the swamp make you uneasy, but your watch passes without event. Shortly after midnight, Jarrell awakens and you are able to catch a few hours sleep before dawn arrives and you take to the water once more. The third day of your voyage is accompanied by a cold west wind that blows across the desolate swamp and chills you to the bone. Clumps of twisted grey foliage line the channel along which you row, releasing nauseating clouds of gas as your bow wave laps at their rotting roots. At length, you pass by these poisoned shrubs and reach a wider waterway where the current flows against you. "We must be getting near the Torg estuary," says Jarrell, now having to labour at the oars in order to make headway. He continues for a few minutes more, and then, just as you're about to take your turn at rowing, the mouth of the River Torg looms into view. You swap seats with Jarrell and take up the oars. The flow is much stronger here at the river mouth, but you are rested, and you row with a strength and determination that overcomes the current. You have travelled over 10 miles upstream when the bow rams against a submerged obstruction. The boat is near the middle of the river and you can see no obvious hazards, such as shoals or mudbanks. But it is stuck fast, and no matter how hard you row, you cannot free it. Suddenly, a dozen webbed hands slap over the sides of the boat, and 6 ghoulish, dome-shaped heads rise from the river. Their mottled throat sacs puff and slacken fitfully as these creatures clamber over the gunwales and launch their attack. Sequali is what they're called. Oh, we're not very well healed. Okay. That's right. As you dispatch the last of the amphibians, Jarrell grabs hold of the oars and begins to row with all his might. Jarrell grabs hold of the oars and begins to row with all his might, but you have covered only a short distance when there is a loud crack and a sharpened wooden stake rips through the bottom of the boat. The tiny craft rocks violently as a tall fountain of water gushes through the torn planks. Then suddenly the boat capsizes and you are pitched headfirst into the murky river. A webbed hand claws your leg, but you kick out savagely and break free of its clammy grip. Free of your unseen attacker, you strike out for the south bank and drag yourself cold and shaken up onto the muddy shore. Jarrell screams for help as he struggles to escape from the clutches of 2 Sequali. They latch onto his wolfskin cloak and drag him beneath the water. He surfaces, sword in hand, but is pulled under again, and this time he does not reappear. A trail of bubbles and a patch of red water drifting with the current are all there is to mark the grave of Seb Jarrell. Ah. For an hour you sit staring at the river, mourning the loss of your brave companion. Your heart is heavy with the grief of his passing, but you do not permit sorrow to become despair. You turn your eyes towards Torgar, and defiantly you vow to avenge his death by retrieving the stolen law stones from the dungeons of that dread citadel. Your journey along the bank of the River Torg is a long and tiring ordeal. For 8 days you trudge through the black mud, cut off from all view of the lands to the north and south by an unbroken wall of stunted trees. The only inhabitants of this forsaken territory are the buzzing insects which hang seemingly motionless in the humid air. They are a constant source of irritation, but at least their bite proves harmless. On the morning of the 9th day, the muddy river bank gives way to firmer ground and the trees become less dense. Ahead you can see a barren expanse of yellow sulfurous soil. That marks the beginning of Nadulridsaga foothills. You can also see a road of broken stones disappearing into the distance. After a week of trekking across difficult terrain, the firm surface of the hill track feels as smooth as a mirror beneath your aching feet. By noon, you have put 10 miles behind you and have reached a bridge which crosses a sickly yellow stream flowing down from the surrounding hills. You're about to continue your journey across the bridge when you hear a rumble of hoofbeats and see a group of horsemen shrouded in dust riding along the road towards you. I think we'll hide. Swiftly, you dive beneath the bridge and wait with bated breath as the horsemen approach. They thunder across the bridge, and when you can no longer hear their hoofbeats pounding the rocky road, you climb out of your hiding place and continue northwards. The road winds upwards through the arid hills until it reaches a ridge of yellow rock. You climb to the crest of the ridge and catch your first awe-inspiring glimpse of Torgar. The walls of this grim city fortress stand upon the brink of a ravine cut deep by centuries of rushing water. A natural causeway of stone spans the dark chasm and provides the only means of approaching Torgar from the south. It has an enviable position and its defenses seem impregnable. It commands the only road into the barren land of Gatan, and any who dare travel that road must pass over the causeway and through the city's great iron gate. In the past there have been few who would venture willingly to Torgar. But now the causeway and its approaches swarm with such men. They are the soldiers of Telestria and Parmirian, and they have come with their engines of war to lay siege to this grim Dracoran fortress. Less than a mile from the ridge stands a cluster of tents, perched on top of a hillock, which overlooks the siege works. As you approach them, a group of knights appear from the largest tent and command you to halt. One of them, an officer, recognizes the uniform you wear and bids you enter the tent to meet his commander. All of the knights are armed, and you decide it prudent not to refuse the officer's request. A group of high-ranking warriors are gathered around a table on which lies a map of Gatan and the Hammerlands. They are engrossed in their plans for an assault across the causeway, and they do not notice you enter the tent. The officer speaks with one of the lords who leaves the table to come and question you. Welcome, Pathfinder, he says, his keen eyes glinting like two polished gemstones. I am Adamas, Lord Constable of Garthen, Commander-in-Chief of the Telestrian Army. What news do you bring from Erin? Rather than risk raising his suspicions, you tell him of the Erin-Lentian alliance and their successful struggle against the forces of Baron Shinzar of Blackshroud. He listens with interest to your report, and then he asks how you came to be 200 miles from Prince Gregor's army. We can't trust anyone. We're on a secret mission. The warrior lord looks at you reproachfully, and from a pocket of his surcoat he takes out a glittering gem. The Elder Magi of Desi have bestowed upon us generous gifts to aid our fight against the Darklands, he says, holding the gem in the palm of his hand. Then he breathes the word of an incantation, and green flames dance wildly around the sparkling jewel. Blinding pain stabs at your head as pulses of psychic energy prise open the secrets of your mind. Lord Adamas commands you to reveal your mission and your true identity, and you are powerless to resist. So you are the one they call Lone Wolf, he says thoughtfully, and you have come here to break into Torgar and claim that which belongs to you. How strange it is that our goals should be so similar. Come, follow me. Perhaps cooperation will hasten our success. A short distance from Lord Adamas' tent stands a wooden watchtower, constructed by his army engineers, which offers an obstructed view of the causeway and the Great Gate of Torgar. As you reach the top of its rickety ladder and step onto the platform beside the Lord Constable, he recounts the events that have led to the siege of this city fortress. Following his victory over the Ogians and the destruction of Xanar, Adamas led the allied armies of Bor, Celestria, and Palmyrian along the Blackshroud Trail in pursuit of the shattered enemy. When they reached the Agnar Kor Kuzim, the Road of Slaves, the army of Bor was detached and sent to assail Blackshroud from the east, while the bulk of the allied forces marched north towards Torgar. When Telestria was overrun in the early days of the war, thousands of her people were taken as slaves and imprisoned here in this fortress. Lord Adamas had sworn that one day he would free them, and he was determined to fulfill his pledge. During the march north, a great battle was fought near the wastelands of Zutezna against two Jack armies led by Dark Lord Kragenskull and Dark Lord Schlanzor. Both were soundly defeated by the allies and sent back to Cragmantle to lick their wounds. Although victorious at Zutezna, the allies had suffered heavy losses, and Adamas feared they would be too weak to storm Torgar. He was too far from his homeland for reinforcements to reach him swiftly, and there was the growing threat that the Dark Lords would muster their troops in Tanors and Mosgoa and attack again. Faced with this grave dilemma, he decided to risk an assault on Torgar. We have means to breach their iron gates, he says, staring purposefully at the great door of Torgar. The Elder Magi have given us a device that will reduce it to a twisted scrap, and when we march through that portal and free our people, we shall have all the reinforcements we need. The hoarse cries of soldiers and the blare of war trumpets announced preparations for an assault across the causeway. Armored infantry gather in a spearhead formation and wait for the order to advance towards a wall of logs and earth, which has been thrown up to protect the vanguard troops dug in on the causeway itself. These warriors scuttle about behind their ramparts, holding arched wooden shields over their bent backs to protect them against the arrows raining down from the battlements. The iron gate stands less than 50 yards from their position, and this approach is heaped with the bodies of those who have fallen during previous assaults. You accompany Lord Adamas as he makes his way through the massed ranks of infantry and enter the trench which zigzags towards the causeway. He stops at a log-lined hollow dug out of the trench wall and speaks with the captain who is lying there nursing a broken arm. The wounded officer hands him his leather satchel, and Adamas continues along the trench until he reaches the center of the causeway. There you both take cover with the vanguard and peer through a slit in the log wall at the formidable entrance to Torgar. It's an impressive-looking door, says Adamas, studying the wall of black iron, pitted and streaked with age, but every door has its key, and we have the key to this one. He flips open the leather satchel and removes what appears to be a mass of triangular crystals fused into one solid lump. This is the device the Elder Magi prepared for us. It has to be placed at the foot of the door and is activated by pressing this shard, he says, pointing to a sliver of crystal protruding from the side. The thing explodes 10 seconds after the shard is pressed. Calmly, he takes a coin from his pocket and flicks it in the air. One of us must place the device, he says, as he catches the coin. We're the only two left who stand a chance of surviving the run. He nods at his clenched fist and invites you to call heads or tails. Choose heads, I guess. When he opens his fist, you see that the coin shows tails. Fate has chosen you for this heroic task, Kylord, he says, and hands you the leather satchel containing the crystal explosive. My men will cover you with their crossbows when you make your run. Place the device so that the shard faces the door, and remember, you have only 10 seconds to get back once it is activated. You shoulder the satchel, and as Adamas gives the order to his men to fire, you scramble over the rampart and sprint towards the great iron door. The shouts of the defenders and the metallic twang of the vanguard's crossbows echo across the causeway as you sprint headlong towards the door. A rain of boulders begins to fall, smashing around you with terrific force, but you manage to dodge these and reach your goal unscathed. Quickly, you tear the satchel from your shoulder, prime the crystal explosive, and sprint back, counting the seconds with every step. Suddenly, a terrific jolt throws you forward, and a dull, throbbing pain spreads across your back. A falling rock has clipped your shoulder blade and knocked you to the ground. Desperation suppresses the pain, and you scramble over the rampart with only 1 second to spare. The crystal explodes with a blinding flash, releasing a bolt of sun-like energy that tears a massive hole in the 1-foot-thick iron plate and transforms what little remained into red-hot slag. The shuddering concussion jars the entire causeway, and fragments of glowing metal fall all around you. Triumphant cheers rise above the thunderous boom that is rumbling through the ravine as the spear point of Adamas' army surges across the causeway towards the ruined gate. You take your place beside Lord Adamas and charge through the smoldering gap, leaping over the charred and broken remains of the Dracarum who were caught by the blast. The allied soldiers follow your lead and sweep into the startled city through a gate now guarded only by the slain. Despite their shock, the defenders begin to rally as they receive fresh reinforcements from other parts of the city. And soon a vicious battle rages in the cramped, gloomy streets. You lead a group of Palmyrean men-at-arms across a courtyard and into a dingy street, where you find yourselves confronted by a regiment of Dracarum garrison troops. They have gathered to make a wall of shields behind a pair of small figures, black-robed and cowled, each holding a yellow globe. The two robed figures utter a sinister curse and fling their globes into the air. The yellow spheres rise higher and higher until they disappear completely in the smoke-laden air. The Palmyreans are eager to engage the enemy, and rush forward with their weapons drawn to strike, but before they fall upon the Dracarium, the yellow spheres fall upon them with devastating effect. You are dazzled by a brilliant flash as the two globes explode, scattering fragments that hiss like a host of fiery snakes into the Palmyrean ranks. The men-at-arms scream with pain and terror as the fragments burn everything they touch. You escape the worst of the blast, but the sleeve on your tunic is splashed with fragments and is now on fire. The flames burn ferociously before you are able to extinguish them. Oh, bollocks. We're quite hurt. Less than half of the Palmyrean men-at-arms have survived the devastating attack. They reel back towards the courtyard, and you manage to pull them into a circle just in time to defend against the Dracarium, who are charging along the street. We should probably use the combat potion now. Yeah, because they got 40 health. But this is not looking good. Fuck. Fuck. Dead. See, even with max combat skill, these combats are too hard. Well. We got pretty far there. Try again. Alright, so... Same again, because it's combat where we normally die. So just maximize combat. We take the curing and the hump mastery. Definitely take that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Alright, I mean, that was a good part, it seems. There was some fights along the way, but they weren't too bad. Try again. So go here, go here, go here, go here. Take the stuff, go to the valley. Then we meet. I wonder if we can ever have him survive. Alright, and then we take the boat and we get attacked by this thing. We're kind of okay, I think. Oh, it's -6. Fuck. We don't lose much health here. Alright. Alright, how good are we? 12. And then we face this. Oh, fuck. We've got to use the potion here. But even then, oh man. Dead. See? Combats are just not very balanced, are they? And it would be worse if we were actually rolling for our stats. One, 2, 3, 4. And we might actually need the potion. Yeah, I'll take the potion. Every bit of health we can get. Right, are we healing? Okay. Reasonable. Alright, how are we doing? -6. But we don't lose too much health here, so we'll do it. -6 again. This is where we died last time. 13 health. For God's sake. Definitely, I think we need to use the potion again. Oh, I should have used this endurance potion. Dead. Come on, this is stupid. It's not that hard to fight, but this RNG. I mean, we could try other paths, but this path seems reasonable so far. Take the potions. Right. Just try not to lose too much health here. Right, we're quite healthy now. Yes, come on. Alright, before I turn the page here, what are we on? 20. 20 HP. Alright, we'll use the endurance. Alright, what are we on? 26. Really? Come on. Like, this is with max combat skill. Like, how could you possibly be able to do this if you had to follow the rules and roll the dice every time? I just want to get to the next pages. Okay, go to Percy, do this, yes, 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 yes. Wow, we got hurt a lot there. What are we on? 24. Alright, not too bad. And then this one should be okay. Oof. Alright. health. Alright. Use the endurance potion. Blackish. Wait. Oh, we get to ambush it. This is better. That's more like it. Oh, then we're brought here. Oh, okay. Damn it. Alright, we have to take the combat potion. Come on, let it... Man, this series was so much better balanced in the first few books. Like... Now it gets really repetitive. Having to just restart over and over and over again. I don't know, it's just not as well written as before. You don't really have as much control. We don't have much control, full stop. It'd be nice if there was a bit more depth in the fights, like more items you can use, more options you could have during the fight. Alright, so we've got full health now. That's better. Yes, come on. Alright, and before this... that... Good, no. Oh, we died from that 2 endurance point loss. Really? Come on. And whatever comes afterwards is going to be even harder, so... It takes this many times just to get past that swamp monster. Alright, we've saved a lot of health there, that's good. Yes, that's more like it. Alright, we're quite hurt, but we can do it. We just need to heal up. One, two... Yes, yes, yes. Alright, so then Seb dies. Alright, fight under the bridge. Right, Tails. Because he'll do it then. The Dracorum give a loud yell as soon as they see Adamas appear. At once the Vanguard fire their crossbows and many bolts find their mark, but the Dracorum, who fall, do not hamper their comrades, who are preparing to welcome Adamas with huge chunks of rock. With cat-like agility, he veers right and left, weaving his way through the deluge of falling boulders, which smash down with a terrific crack. He reaches the door unscathed, rips the satchel from his shoulder, and finds the crystal explosive. Automatically, you start to count as he runs back through the rubble and dead bodies. 6, 7, 8, he leaps, and as you count 9, he clears the rampart and lands beside you, breathless and exhilarated. And then we get here, and then here. And then we have to fight the garrison. Man. But it's not too hard, it's just we don't have much health. Fuck! Come on! It's so combat heavy. So why the heck did they ever suggest that there are different, like, skills you can focus on that are not combat oriented? Like, you have to be all in on combat in this series, it seems. You can't... Anytime you have an option to pick something that boosts your combat, you have to take that, not anything else. Alright, last try, and then I'll end the stream. And next time we might try the different path, where we go with the prince instead. See if that works out better. Oh, we lost a lot of health there. Okay, not too bad, but we are really hurt now. This is the hardest fight, so we should just use the potion here. Cool. Last go. And then next time we'll try a different path. Wait, I don't want the rope. Okay, we're quite healthy now. Yes. Don't lose health. Ah, look at all that. Ah, fuck off. What? This is ridiculous. Look at that. Oh my god. Oh, we can't win this next fight now. Come on. Dead. This is... Oh, getting in this situation again. But this is happening earlier on in the book, which actually is a good thing. It's worse when it's just the final boss. I don't see any way around this. Like, the other options seem to be worse. Like escaping from the guards. Alright, next time we'll try a different path altogether. We'll go with the prince. Wait. I also had the option to go to the mountains instead of the valley. Could try that. Why did they make the combat so hard? Like, it doesn't make... It makes the book really repetitive. You have... And it also removes the amount of choice in these skills, because you basically have to choose weapon mastery. Like, you don't have a choice there. You have to choose curing. It's like, you can't not choose curing. That's the one thing I've always taken. And hunt mastery is probably the best that pairs with weapon skill. Especially with this thing, reducing loss in surprise attacks. Like, the only other potential option is Sight Surge, which also increases your combat skill, but a lot of enemies are immune to that. Alright, we'll stop there. Huh. Ridiculous. At least there's a different path we can try. Hopefully it's yields success or something. Like, they're kind of assuming you somehow made it here with all your skills, like, accumulating so that you're a high level rank. But that doesn't change your combat skill. And combat skill is what I'm losing on. All that does is let you take up more of these skills, which are mostly not combat related. And maybe have special weapons and stuff that you carried from before. But there's not many. There's the Summer Sword, which, I mean, it'd be crazy if you somehow still had it at this point. That's it, really. The Jeweled Mace, but the Jeweled Mace didn't even add damage. That's the point. They've kind of missed a trick here. There was way more possibility to have more custom weapons which have, like, additional skill or additional advantage in battle. But that's not come up much at all. Like, we picked up this whip in this game, but it doesn't have any options. So it's just a whip, and you can't even use it in battle unless it comes up in something specific. So they, like, you could have had more equipment variation. Alright. Alright, whatever. See you next time. And welcome back to Lone Wolf Dungeons of Torgar. So last time we were having a go at this. Well, basically we were following this path here, where you go looking for, what's his name? Seb Jerel. And we found him. It's pretty tough, though. There's multiple fights in a row that you have to survive. This time we could try going the other path, see if it's wildly different. Where we go with Prince Gregor. Let's have a look. So we've got... This is the good stuff to start with. Alright. Let's go then. So, I'm not going to read this page because we've been here a million times, but I will read this page because we've never been on this path here. So, we will accompany Prince Gregor to battle at Setsa. Since the first rays of dawnlight brightened the eastern sky, the streets of Luomi echoed to the shouts of sergeants and the crunch of booted feet. The regiments of Lencia and Eru are taking their places in the column of march, and by mid-morning this column, 6,500 strong, is ready to leave for battle. Company by company, through the city's east gate, they depart, tramping the dusty roads that leads to Setsa. When the time comes for you to join them, you take your place with Prince Gregor's escort and fall in line behind the armored knights of the palace guard. So much for being a lone wolf, we're now part of a massive army. The army is well protected by Lentian horse scouts behind, and on both sides to make sure it is not ambushed whilst crossing the 20 miles of open grasslands to Setsa. During the afternoon, a troop of scouts are sent ahead to spy on the enemy. They return to report that Baron Shinzar has fortified the town and received reinforcements from Blackshroud since his defeat at Luomi. The news does not cheer Prince Gregor, for he knows the ground around Setsa does not favor the attacker. It is dusk when the army arrives on the outskirts of the town. In the gloom, you can see the enemy campfires flickering between the ruins of the cottages that were destroyed when the Drakarim first invaded this land. Occasionally their gruff voices can be heard on the chill evening wind as they shout orders and call the names of slaves and attendants. After a whole tiring day's marching, and with night drawing close, the order goes round that there will be no battle offensive this evening. Aww. Quickly the regiments disperse and many fires are lit. Tents are erected for the nights and the baggage carts are unloaded to provide the men with stores that should make their night in the open less uncomfortable. The prince chooses to position his headquarters on a hill to the north that overlooks the town, and King Sarnak of Lencia chooses a similar position on a hill beyond the road, half a mile to the south. Shortly after the tents are constructed, a message arrives from King Sarnak's headquarters, inviting the prince to join him and draw up plans for tomorrow's battle. The prince accepts the invitation and says that you may accompany him if you wish. Sure. In the company of a dozen bodyguards and court heralds, you follow the prince as he makes his way on foot to King Sarnak's camp. It is his usual practice to inspect his soldiers on the eve of battle to see for himself that all is well and to raise their spirits with a few words of praise and encouragement. He is heartened to discover their morale is already high and that they are all confident that he will lead them to victory. At length you arrive at the Lentian headquarters. A huge yellow flag bearing the emblem of a white swan and blue dragon flutters in the breeze above the royal tent where units of silver-clad knights stand stiffly to attention. A trumpet announces your arrival, and the knights escort you inside to meet the king. After formal greetings have been exchanged, the grey-haired king begins to discuss the impending battle. The prince has brought with him a detailed map of the town, and as the two leaders formulate their plans, it is used to mark the places where their regiments will assemble and attack the enemy. If only we knew the number of reinforcements Baron Shinza has received, says the king uneasily. Then we could be sure our plans would succeed. The prince nods in agreement. We must send a scout to recon... How the heck do you pronounce that? I gotta look this up.
Reconnoiter. Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter. Oh yeah, I have heard that word before. I just never seen it written down. Reconnoiter. Their defenses. Or hundreds of our soldiers could lose their lives needlessly in the assault. The king looks in your direction, then returns his eyes to the prince. I have no scouts trained for such a delicate operation. How can you have no scouts trained for that kind of thing in a war? But I see you have a pathfinder. Send him. His skills would be well suited to this task. But I'm not a... The prince hesitates. He cannot reasonably refuse the king's suggestion, yet to send you into the enemy camp would endanger your life in your quest. I mean, I'm good at scouting, sure. Excellent, says King Sarnik. I wish I had a few like you in my own army. He bids you step forward and shows you the extent of the known enemy positions using Prince Gregor's map. Once you have been briefed, he sends for some black clothing for you to wear instead of your grey Pathfinder's uniform and some burnt cork with which to blacken your face and hands. I'm sorry, blacken my face and hands? Why? Are the enemy dark-skinned? That's not gonna work. Oh god. You are then escorted to the edge of the encampment, close to the dusty road on which the army marched from Luomi. The guards tell you that the password is broadsword. When you return, you must use this word, or the pickets, the sentries who guard the perimeter of the camp, may mistake you for one of the enemy. Alright. The ground to the west of Setsa is flat and featureless and offers very little cover to conceal your approach. Slowly you work your way through the knee-high grasses to within 20 yards of a stone bridge, where the roadway crosses a foul-smelling ditch and enters the town. Your every movement is stiff with caution now. But the bridge is barricaded and you can see the spiky black helmets of the enemy defenders glinting in the moonlight. Snake-like, you wriggle forwards, slide down into the ditch, and take shelter beneath the stone bridge. With one cheek pressed against the wet stone, you strain your ears to hear what the enemy are saying. You recognize their harsh, ugly language. It is Jak, but it is being spoken by human voices. The only humans to speak it so fluently are the Death Knights, the elite of the Drakirim. Okay. Wait, our enemy are... Oh no, this is Jak. These are Jaks, okay. Suddenly there is a loud splash that sends your pulse racing. Spear has fallen close to where you are hiding, and its shaft stands upright in the muddy water. A growling curse is followed by the sound of heavy boots descending the bank as an angry Death Knight comes to retrieve the weapon he dropped. Alright. The Death Knight warrior appears, his huge black form silhouetted in the archway. You grip your weapon tightly and prepare to strike him a fatal blow should he see you hiding in the shadows, but you do not need to attack. He snatches up the spear in his mailed fist, turns and hauls himself out of the ditch, grunting and cursing his carelessness as he struggles in his heavy armor. You wait 20 minutes before leaving the bridge and working your way slowly along the ditch. Silently, you move through the shallow sludge of water and mud, hidden by the bank of the ditch from the watchful eyes of the Drakirim sentries. Beyond the ditch, the ground rises to a low wall, which encircles a field of cultivated trees. It is an apple orchard and it is full of enemy soldiers, huddled around their campfires or asleep beneath the fruit-laden branches. Beyond the orchard lies an expanse of open grassland covered with tents and makeshift paddocks full of horses. Here, then, are Baron Shinza's reinforcements. Over 600 cavalry newly arrived from Blackshroud. You commit every detail to memory before leaving the ditch and making your way back stealthily to the Allies' camp. The king and Prince Gregor praise the success of your scouting mission. The information you have gathered is of vital importance to their battle plans. The prince senses that you are tired and orders his heralds to escort you back to his headquarters and prepare a comfortable bed for you. After the long day's march and the exertions of your scouting mission, you accept gratefully the chance of a good night's sleep. At the break of dawn, the soldiers of Lensha and Eru rouse themselves and adopt their positions for the fight. You gather your equipment and join the prince at the top of the hill on which he has established his command post. He is observing the enemy line through a telescope and dictating orders to his heralds, who commit his words to a parchment and dispatch them to his regiments in the field. We outnumber the enemy 2 to 1, but they are well positioned to receive our attack, comments the prince, handing you his telescope so that you can scan their lines. The town of Setsa is little more than a handful of ruined cottages clustered on a flat-topped hill. To the north lies a wood and a small hill on which a ruined temple stands. To the south lies an orchard surrounded by a low wall, and further on, open grassland bisected by a ditch that runs the whole length of the battlefield. The road from Luomi crosses the ditch at a stone bridge which is barricaded and heavily defended. The enemy have also been busy to the north. A mass of pointed stakes form a barrier between the two hills to impede any attempt by cavalry to break through the center, and all along this defensive line are row upon row of Drakarim archers. An unnatural calm descends on the field, as though time momentarily stands still. Suddenly, the quiet is shattered by a fanfare of trumpets from King Sarnik's camp. It is the signal to advance. Alright, we've got a pretty detailed map here. So we are to the south. Ogrons, they're basically like big ogres, aren't they? 200 mounted death knights, they would be quite formidable. Got some they've got a lot of archers covering this area. The foot knights of Lensha are the first to go forward, their densely packed columns marching in perfect order towards the bridge at the center of the enemy line. As they come within range, there's a sound like rushing water, and a cloud of black arrows pours down on their armored units. It ranks. Huge gaps appear in the line, and the columns seem to sway under the impact before continuing the assault. They are flanked to the south by crossbowmen, who are firing their weapons as they advance. Unlike the knights, they wear very little armor, and over half their number are felled by arrows when they halt to reload their cumbersome bows. The survivors retreat, taking cover among the massed ranks of Lenshian spearmen who are advancing towards the orchard. Prince Gregor signals to his pikemen and men-at-arms to support the Lenshian knights who are engaged in a bitter hand-to-hand fight at the stone bridge. They are within 100 yards of the bridge when a crackling ray of electric fire sweeps down from the ruins of the temple. It rips through their packed ranks with devastating effect, blasting the pikemen high into the air. By the gods! What manner of black sorcery is this? Gasps Prince Gregor, horrified by the cruel slaughter, but his horror is soon overcome by the sudden realization that he must act swiftly to counter this threat, or the battle might be lost. The Lenshian knights are being held up at the bridge, and every minute that passes costs them dearly. He calls for his destrier, a magnificent white charger clad in ornate plate armor, and climbs into the saddle. To battle, he shouts, and ignoring the warnings of his heralds, he spurs his warhorse down the hill. The knights of the palace guard give a rousing cheer as he takes place at the head of their column and leads them towards the ruined temple. I don't want to join the battle, I just want to watch. What much can I do? I'm not trained as a cavalry. Majestically, the palace guard advance across the field of battle, their lances raised like the spines of a steel porcupine, their scarlet and yellow pennons streaming behind them in the wind. The enemy shower them with a rain of arrows, yet the Eruans seemingly ignore these deadly shafts and continue undeterred. It is not until they reach the ditch that the constant bow fire begins to abrade their ranks. However, it does little to slow their pace as the prince gives the order to charge. The knights level their lances as they reach the bottom of the hill. Above them, a regiment of Dracarim, pikemen, brace themselves to receive the attack, and a blaze of lightning hurtles down from the temple wall. You wince as it streaks down the hill, but miraculously it misses its intended target and explodes near the ditch, hurling nothing but scorched mud and the body of those already slain into the sky. The prince's battle cry rings out and his knights slam into the Dracarim to break like a wave against their wall of pikes. The prince and a small group of his stoutest guardsmen break through and gallop on towards the temple, whilst the remaining knights engage in fierce hand-to-hand combat. The prince and his group reach the temple and you see them dismount and enter the ruins. Such bravery stirs your admiration, for they know the deadly danger that lurks there, yet they confront it unflinchingly. So is there like some mage in there? Dark monk. On the hill. We're not really doing much, are we? We're just watching. The Dracarim are beginning to falter. They are no match for the palace guard, the cream of the Eruan army. As their casualties escalate, their line crumbles and suddenly they turn to flee in disarray towards the town. An explosion rumbles across the field and a billowing cloud of black smoke rises from the temple. Your stomach churns and you fear the worst as smoke and debris pour from the ruins like an erupting volcano. Then, as quickly as it began, the eruption subsides and the smoke clears to reveal a triumphant Prince Gregor clutching the Eruan flag and exhorting his troops to victory. The palace guard have captured the hill, and the sorcery that threatened to destroy them has been smashed. But from where you stand you can see a new threat fast approaching the prince and his men, a threat that could kill them all. The enemy are rallying to launch a counterattack on the hill. To the south, you see a mass of leather-clad Hammerlanders, supported by a regiment of grim-faced Brigandi mercenaries, advancing towards the prince's position. The palace guard have fought like lions, but they have lost half their number and must be near to exhaustion. They may not survive a counterattack by a much fresher force that outnumbers them 5-1. All that can save them now are the Eruan reserves. Well, we'll have to send the reserves then. Also, why would I have to take command? Don't they have like lieutenants and generals and stuff? It's not just the prince. Alright, I'll do it. Swiftly, you inform the captains of the reserve regiments of the danger facing their prince. At first, they are reluctant to take orders from a pathfinder. Well then don't take orders from me, make the decision yourself! Whose rank is inferior to theirs, but the logic of your argument and your forceful character persuades them to comply with your commands. Trumpets announce the advance. Well, why don't you lead them then, captains? Persuades them to comply with your commands. Trumpets announce the advance and you set off across the body-strewn battlefield with a force 900 strong. It's quite big. Pikemen lead the column with archers close behind, and bringing up the rear are a levy of militia, many of whom lived in Setsa before the Dracarim invaded. Their morale is high for this is their chance to recover their homes and their land. Tensely you watch as the enemy attack. The palace guard link shields, but as the Hammerlanders slam into their line, they buckle and waver beneath the crushing onslaught. As your force crosses the ditch, you pray that the prince and his men have strength enough to hold for just a few minutes more. Hello Stormy. Gotta get to sleep real soon, but figured I'd drop in since it's been a bit. Yeah, I haven't been online for a while. Still in book 10. Well, I've had one attempt at this before. There are like two different paths you can follow from page 1, and last time I was just following the other path over and over again, which goes through a forest where I get killed over and over again by various battles. This path I'm trying now, we're fighting in a literal war. But we're not really doing anything, we're just kind of standing back and watching as the war rages. The fight raging on the hill becomes a vicious struggle as the Hammerlanders hurl themselves like hungry wolves at the battle-weary guard. Doggedly, you advance until you are close enough to shout the charge. Then, with a rousing cheer from the prince's men to speed them on their way, your command rush forward and the leading pikemen take the enemy in the flank. The attack is devastating. The Hammerlanders and the Brigandi are split in two and swept from the hill like autumn leaves. The pikemen halt, and you order the archers forward to fire into the retreating enemy. The retreat becomes an all-out rout as the enemy flee the battlefield in chaos. Okay, I didn't have any choices, we just... Alright, here we go. Finally got a choice. On to Setzer! Shouts Prince Gregor. The battle cry is taken up by his valiant soldiers as he leads them across the corpse-strewn field towards the town. Should we really press forward? I think we should kind of secure the area, replenish our forces, rest, and then continue? Alright, whatever. Heavy fighting is raging along the main street. The Lentian knights have taken the bridge, and King Sarnak's spearmen have breached the wall that surrounds the apple orchard. Not the apple orchard! However, the Drakarim are determined to stand their ground, and they fight back viciously like starving wolves. You run with a group of longbowmen towards the center of Setzer, and find yourself approaching a barn-like building which overlooks the bridge. Standing at a window on its upper floor is a Drakarim sniper with an arrow notched, ready to fire. Patiently, he watches you weaving through the smoky ruins until you present a clear target. He releases his straining bowstring and sends an arrow whistling towards your heart. I'm guessing 0 to 2 is just a heart kill. Heart shot. Oh, but we can add 3 because of Hunt Mastery, so we're not going to get that. Instinct saves you from sudden death. You twist aside to avoid the speeding shaft and it grazes your shoulder. But your enemy is now determined that you should die, and hastily he reloads his bow. Let's use our bow. With the legendary grace and speed of a Kai Master in battle, you draw an arrow and send it whistling towards the sniper's head. He utters a gurgling scream as he topples from the first floor window. Your arrow stuck in his throat. Well, that was a good shot. We did that on the back of a horse. Should we check his body? Roughly, you pull the dead Drakkar onto his stomach and cut open his pack. In his pack and on his body, you discover the following items. Alright, take another quiver and the arrows and a blanket. What do you even need a blanket for? Keeping warm at night? Putting out fires? Hiding from bogeymen? Take a sword, I guess. Oh no, we can't. You reach a square near the center of the town where a unit of enemy reserves are gathered, awaiting the order to join the battle. They are Krawn, hideous-looking creatures from the Mogador and Akamazim forests. They are approached by a swarthy giant of a man, with a short black beard and a shiny bald head, who brandishes a massive war axe fashioned from a fiery red metal. The axe must weigh more than its wielder, but he waves it above his head as if it were no heavier than a stick of wood. Judging from his features and from what you have heard during your travels through Eru, this warrior is Baron Shinzar, the enemy commander. Come on, let's try and just headshot him. Baron is shouting at the Krawn to form a line and get ready to advance. The only vulnerable part of his body that you can see as he strides back and forth before his troops is his unarmored head. Coolly, you draw an arrow to your lips and aim at the nape of his neck. Oh, ho, ho. Your arrow strikes the Baron, but he is saved from a fatal wound by the lip of the steel bever that protects his neck and back. The arrow ricochets, gouging a deep furrow across the base of his skull and making him fall heavily to his knees. Bellowing like an angry bull, he glares in your direction as he staggers painfully to his feet. The summer sword, the bloody summer sword. Of course we don't have the summer sword. Who still has the summer sword in book 10? You get the summer sword in book 2. Baron Shinzar snarls an order and the Kraun pack moves towards you. They are not as tall as their leader, but almost twice as broad, with arms like branches of a twisted tree that hang down below their knees. Awkwardly, they shuffle on short bow legs, their gnarled skin shiny like knotted leather. A shiver runs down your spine as you recall what you have heard about these creatures, that they delight in eating their foes. But as they draw nearer, you dismiss such thoughts and prepare for combat. 60 endurance! Alright, but its combat ratio is 0, so it's probably not too bad. Nice. Opening. Yes! 2 crits. And another good hit. There we go. It did last longer than 4 rounds, though. A trumpet announces the arrival of Prince Gregor's men as they swarm around the west of the square. Side of the square. Baron Shinzar screams in anger and lifts his axe on high, daring them all to step forward and feel its lethal caress. His offer is met by a dozen arrows loosed by Eran archers from the houses bordering the square, but the shafts are drawn to the blade of the sorceress axe, where they disintegrate in a sizzling splash of glowing splinters. With an evil laugh, the Baron mounts his charger and gallops through the soldiers, cutting down those brave enough to stand in his way. What, was he using magic? Or literally just swiping the arrows out of the sky like the Witcher? But as he leaves the town, he finds his escape blocked by a new and formidable enemy. King Sarnak and a host of mounted knights block the road that leads to Blackshroud. They sit astride their war horses, their armor dented and stained with the blood of the Baron's cavalry, all of whom they have slain in battle or put to flight. The Baron thunders towards them at breakneck speed, but the king and his knights remain grimly immobile, like a wall of tarnished steel. Slowly they lower their lances as the Baron speeds nearer and nearer. With a last defiant cry of anger, the Baron and his horse smash headlong into the line. There's a sickening screech of buckling metal and rearing horses. Then the Baron reappears, hoisted into the air, impaled on the tip of King Sarnak's lance. That's nice. A triumphant cheer fills the air as the soldiers of Prince Gregor and King Sarnak flood into the square. Setzer has been recaptured, and the enemy has been smashed beyond recovery. Everywhere you look, there are joyous faces, for the death of Baron Shinzar has sealed a victory that will liberate all of Eru from the cruel yoke of Drakirim occupation. As you watch the defeated remnants of the enemy escape across the ruins of the Setzer wall and scurry like rats for the safety of Blackshroud, Prince Gregor joins you in celebration of the victory. "We have triumphed, Lone Wolf," he says. "Our land is now free, and the way is open for you to reach Torgar and fulfill your quest." Oh yeah, this is not even our quest. This is just like a side mission. An hour before dawn, you leave Setzer and ride across the open grasslands that slope gently towards the River Brol. A full moon and the gathering light of day help you identify the landmarks that is... How many... It seems like it's always full moon. Identify the landmarks that Prince Gregor told you to look out for to help guide you to a ford close to the site of an abandoned copper mine. His directions prove accurate, and by mid-morning you find yourself on a ridge that overlooks the ford and its cluster of derelict mining huts. You ride along an overgrown cart track that descends to the ford. As you draw level with the first log hut, your horse rears up and whinnies as if sensing danger, and you are forced to tighten your grip of the reins for fear of being thrown. As you regain control of your mount, there is a sudden shout, and a hail of arrows comes whistling towards you. Really? A black-shafted arrow gouges a furrow of skin from your forearm and knocks you backwards out of the saddle. Your horse panics and gallops away, disappearing over the brow of the ridge as you stagger to your feet. Then, with a harsh yell, your ambushers pour out of the log hut. They are eager to finish you before you can offer any resistance. 3 of them are armed with bows, which they reload as they advance towards you. How much health do we have? 18. we wade across the ford, they're going to shoot us pretty easily, aren't they? It doesn't look good for us in any of these parts. Probably should use the bow. You draw an arrow and take aim at an archer just as he raises his bow to fire at you. Your shaft beats his. It buries itself in his chest and sends him spinning to the ground. Quickly you note that of the 5 men advancing towards you, 2 are armed with bows. Fire again. With devastating speed and accuracy, you draw your arrows and fire them deep into the hearts of the 2 enemy archers. Both men stagger and crumple to the ground, but your bowmanship does little to deter their comrades. With a fearsome yell, the 3 remaining warriors brandish their swords and axes and come thundering towards you. There is no time to evade their attack, you must fight them to the death. Well, it's ratio 3, that's not too bad. Oof, that was a bad hit though. Wiping the sweat from your brow, you sheathe your weapon and search the bodies of your ambushers. All of them are clad in black helmets and scarlet, chainmail hauberks. Each has an assortment of weapons and equipment strapped to his muscular body. You recognize the distinctive armor which identifies them as Zaganozod. Zaganozod, a motley unit of Drakarim cavalry which patrols the Black Shroud Trail. This company must have fled here on foot after the Drakarim defeated Setsa, for you can find no sign of their horses. Bloody hell, look how many quivers they have. Why not just take them all? Sure, why not? This is a lot of weapons. We can't carry more than 2. Alright, well, we can take the meals, I suppose. Not that we really need them. The ground rises steeply, and it is dusk before your climb ends at the crest of a ridge overlooking the grasslands of northern Eru. In less than an hour, it will be dark, so you decide to camp here on the ridge and continue at first light. Okay. You are settling down on a mattress of leaf mold when the howl of a timber wolf prompts you to abandon your soft bed and spend the night in the bough of a tree. I mean, a lone wolf, like myself, it's not a huge danger, is it? It's when they're in packs, that's when they're dangerous. Your journey northwards through the Mogador forest is a long and tiring trek that is fraught with danger. Roving bands of Kraun and packs of savage timber wolves demand that you remain vigilant at all times, and as you venture deeper into their vast domain, you feel your sense of time gradually slipping away. Your only consolation on this long and lonely trek is that wild game is plentiful and you experience no shortage of food. On the morning of your 9th day in the forest, you notice that the grey pines are beginning to thin out and the ground is becoming dusty and sparsely vegetated. Soon, you come upon a road constructed of broken stones which leaves the forest and disappears into a barren landscape of yellow sulfurous soil. You check your map and it confirms your suspicions. You have reached the foothills of the Nadulritsaga Mountains and are now less than 20 miles from the fortress of Torgar. Let's have a look. Now Nadulritsaga Mountains. Alright, so we're like basically right here near Torgar. This side. After a week of trekking across difficult terrain, the firm surface of the hill track feels as smooth as a mirror beneath your aching feet. By noon, you have put 10 miles behind you, and you have reached a bridge which crosses a sickly yellow stream flowing down from the surrounding hills. Yellow? Okay. You are about to continue your journey across the bridge. Oh, it's sulfur, isn't it? When you hear a rumble of hoofbeats and see a group of horsemen shrouded in dust riding along the road towards you. Or been here before. So we've converged here. Alright, hide beneath the bridge. Swiftly... Oh yeah, okay, we've read these pages before. So then we end up... Oh. Interesting. So we end up here. So I wonder, is it better to take this path that we've taken? You end up with a lot of quivers, but you don't really need them, do you? We actually didn't have that much combat. Well, we gained a bit of money. Alright, so we come across this camp, and I think we basically just tell them the truth, don't we? We tell them that we are looking for so we accompany Lord Adamas and his group. They're gonna break the gates open of the fortress. And now we choose who's going to plant the bomb. I think if we choose Tails, then he'll do it, and he succeeds, so let's do that. We go Tails. And he blows up the thing. And then... yeah, this is actually a good part, following the war, because we didn't actually do much in the war, and the battles were easy. The other path, the battles were quite hard, because it was just me in the forest with what's-his-name. Okay. And then we're fighting a bunch of robed figures that have magical things. Then what? And then, oh damn, then we have to fight. Okay, we're reasonably healthy. This is probably where I died last time. -3. Ooh, a little bit tough. 22 health. Let's just take a hit and see what happens. Ooh, that's bad. Alright, we'll have to use the potion. But it's still pretty bad. Okay, good. Good. Good-ish. Bad. Good. Fuck! And they were on 1 health. Should have just used the potion to begin with. Alright, I mean, that wasn't a bad path, to be fair. Hang on. I'm not choosing random anymore. We're taking the max rolls. Damn it. Okay. Alright, so we'll take Weapon Mastery, Sword Bow, Axe, I guess, Curing, and Hunt Mastery. Those are the 3 best ones to start with, and it's probably what we're going to end up using for most of these books, because we tend to die and start from the beginner rank again. So we'll take potion. Bow, sword, quiver, and health potion, I guess. It would be nice to have the rope and the lantern, but I don't know whether we'll need them. Especially if we're going down the war path. Alright. Which ironically is the safest path. Alright, so we go with Prince. Should we decline the invitation this time, see what happens? You share an evening meal with a company of longbowmen camped close to the prince's tent. Most of them are tired after the long day's march, and when the meal is over, they settle down to sleep. However, there are several who cannot sleep, and in order to take their minds off the coming battle, they busy themselves either by notching their arrows and waxing their bowstrings or by gambling with dice. 2 archers from Humboldt invite you to join their game. Sure, let's play dice. Let's put some dice music on. The archers are playing a game they called Bullseyes, but you know it better by its song-lending name of Portholes. 2 diamond-shaped dice, each with 10 sides, numbered 0 to 9, are thrown by each player in turn. So that's kind of the same dice used for this game, essentially. Well, this book, except you don't really use dice, you use this weird random number generation table. But it'd be better if they had, if you just used a 10-sided die. The numbers which appear face-up are added together, and the one with the greatest score wins. If anyone throws 2 noughts, however, they shout out "Bullseyes" and win automatically. Each player must stake 3 gold per throw of the dice, and this money is bet before the dice are rolled. Oh, so there's no real decision process. You literally just bet on the outcome of the dice rolls. Sure. We lost. We win. Lost. Lost. Win. Should we just keep going until, like, we're either rich or broke? Rich or broke? We're broke. Wonderful. On your return to Prince Gregor's tent, you are shown to your sleeping area by one of his heralds. It is little more than a pile of straw strewn on the bare ground. But you have slept in worse places than this, and you are now too exhausted to complain or look for somewhere more suitable to rest. Unless you possess a blanket, lose 1 endurance point. A bed of straw, a pile of straw is not that bad to sleep on. Alright, then we got this. Just observe the battle. Let me take the reserves. Take the blanket? Well, we could have used the blanket earlier, but whatever. Alright. Well, they've got a lot of health, that's the problem. Alright. And now we're on 9 health. Ugh. Alright, if we shoot them, then we still have to fight them. We'll have to use a healing potion. We get a whole bunch of quivers. And then we go to the gate. Let him open the gate, and then lose a bunch of endurance. Oh fuck! And then we have to fight this, and this was quite tough. Well, we've got 23 health this time. Bit better. Okay, good start. Come on. Fuck! Oh, we both killed each other. Alright, that's doable. The RNG of combat is really silly, but alright, so we'll take the sword. Hang on. Do I even need to take the sword? Let me think. Because we kill the sniper and get his sword. I'm not sure. No, we'll take the sword this time, but I'll keep an eye out. Play the dice. We'll see if we can get, like... We're broke. Probably better not to play the dice, because all you need is a bit of money. You don't need to be rich. Doesn't really do anything for you. Alright. Observe the battle. Yeah, then we have the sniper. And then we get a sword from him. So we actually shouldn't take the sword, just the bow to start with. Then we get to get one more item. Oh, you need Hunt Mastery and Animal Control for this? Oh no. You just get killed immediately. It's like a 1 in 5 chance of dying there. Straight up. Unavoidable. Gotta love these unavoidable death rolls. We've hit 100 deaths. Okay, so this time we just take the bow, the quiver, 2 potions, and either the rope or the lantern. Probably the rope. Alright, so go with Prince. Decline. Don't bother with the dice. Wonder what happens if we join the cavalry advance. We'll try that. As the palace guard advanced majestically, their serried ranks of steel slowly changed formation in preparation for the prince's order to charge. Heavy lances rise like the spines of a steel porcupine, and their scarlet and yellow pennons unfurl to the wind. A wave of arrows comes flying towards you, sent by the Drakkariim standing behind their fence of stakes, but the range is long, and the black shafts rattle harmlessly off Eruan armor and shields. The first rank of horsemen reach the ditch to find the earth soft and waterlogged. The ruined temple lies 300 yards ahead, and before it a line of Drakkariim pikemen stand grimly silent on the slope of the hill. A war horn blares its signal, and suddenly all hell breaks loose. Arrows pour down on all sides, from the enemy archers to the right and from the archers, previously unseen, lurking in the woods to the left. Many shafts find their way through the sides of helmets and between plates of polished armor. Still, the prince commands his men onwards, and they force their horses across the ditch, braving the savage hail of death. You survive the arrows and steer your horse through the cloying mud, but you are knocked from the saddle by a riderless steed maddened by the pain of its wounds. You land with a splash and roll into the ditch to avoid being trampled by the following horses. After clawing the muck from your eyes, you crawl along the channel. A short distance ahead of you is a knight pinned beneath his dead horse. He's flailing his arms wildly, and you can see that his head is trapped beneath the mud and he's slowly drowning. Sorry, this is a friendly knight? Yeah, this is a friendly knight. Okay. Not saving the enemy. Once you have managed to grab hold of his arms, you heave him out from beneath his dead mount and prise open the visor of his helmet. He coughs and retches the mud from his mouth and lies back against the back of the ditch. "I owe you my life, Pathfinder," he gasps. "Another minute and I'd be done for." You turn to leave, but he grabs you by the wrist and presses a medal into your hand. "I won this at the Battle of Luomi," he says with pride. "I want you to have it with my eternal thanks." Sure. Another cloud of arrows falls from the sky, and you dive to the bottom of the ditch to avoid being hit. When you feel it is safe to raise your head, you discover that the knight is no longer with you. He is chasing after the prince and his fellow knights as they gallop up the hill towards the Drakkariim pikemen. Where's my horse? It should be here. Casting your eye across the body-strewn terrain, you soon realize that all the riderless horses are now either dead or have fled the field in panic. Left with no alternative, you scramble out of the mud and set off after the prince on foot. -6! Fuck. Yeah, we can't go down this path. Oh, I don't even have a weapon. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So if I had a weapon, it would be like -1. No, it would be... +1. So it would be fine if we had a weapon. Prince Gregor's voice rings out above the din of battle as he orders the palace guard to charge the pikemen. The ground shakes beneath the pounding of the horses' hooves as they gather speed, their pennons streaming from their leveled lances. The Drakkariim huddle shoulder to shoulder and nervously dig the butts of their pikes into the hillside to steady their shaky hands. The knights reach the hill. They thunder up the slope. A blaze of lightning hurtles from the top of the temple, but it is mistimed. It crackles harmlessly over their heads and explodes behind them, hurling nothing but scorched earth into the sky. The prince screams his battle cry, and the knights slam into the Drakkariim with a deafening roar. Men and metal howl in agony as the heavy horses break like a wave against the wall of pikes. You see a rider lifted out of his saddle on the point of a pike, and a ramp of black metal suddenly appears where a score of Drakkariim have been trampled into the ground. The prince and a dozen of his bravest knights break through and gallop on towards the temple, but the Drakkariim quickly close ranks and seal the gap. The remaining palace guard are forced to a halt and engage the pikemen in fierce hand-to-hand combat. You reach the hill and leap over the steel-clad bodies that litter the slope. As you near the melee, you see two Drakkariim rushing towards you from the side, their axes raised to hack you down. "For Shamaland!" you cry and turn to face their attack. Well, we're dead. Could have used a potion, but... Alright, we need a weapon for that fight. I mean, it's not a bad fight if we have a weapon. Alright, we'll take a weapon this time. Sword, bow, quiver, potion, and potion. Alright. So should we do that again? Go with him? Because we can win that fight. -8! Ow. Alright. Alright, now we should be able to beat them. But we're a bit injured though. Okay, nice. Nice, there we go. The Palace Guards succeed in closing their ranks and fending off the frenzied attacks of the desperate Drakarim. Their gallantry and battle skill is a stirring sight as they fight their way determinedly towards the crest of the hill. Faced by such noble warriors, the Drakarim begin to falter and fall back in disarray towards the town. As you near the top of the hill, you catch sight of Prince Gregor. He is locked in mortal combat with a silver-clad warrior inside the ruins of the temple. Strewn around them are the dead bodies of the palace guardsmen who, with the prince, broke through the Drakarim pikemen during their charge upon the hill. The prince is trying to prevent the warrior from retrieving a rod of iron that lies on the ground between them. This rod crackles with a blue-white fire that shimmers along its length. The warrior stoops to snatch up the shimmering rod, but the prince leaps forward and kicks it from his grasp. His action costs him dearly, for when his foot touches the stave, a blast of searing flame scorches his leg and hurls him backwards to the ground. You rush forward and block the warrior's attempt to scurry after his weapon. Cursing vilely, he snatches a dagger from his belt and launches himself at your throat. Alright, let's see what happens. There we go. The Zeron utters a gurgling, blood-soaked death cry and crumples at your feet. Tongues of flame ignite and quickly consume his corpse beneath a pall of oily black smoke. Suddenly an explosion shakes the ground as the iron stave disintegrates into a million glowing shards. You rush to the injured prince, heave him across your shoulder and flee the temple as the flames and choking black fumes begin to spread. Once you are a safe distance from the ruins, you lower the prince gently to the ground and watch as the guttering flames gradually ebb and fade. Using your innate Kai skill of healing, you tend to the prince's wounded leg, and he soon stirs to consciousness. The palace guard have captured the hill, and their banner flutters overhead, proudly proclaiming their victory and inspiring the Lentians who are fighting at the bridge. The prince orders that a signal be sent to his reserves, instructing them to advance without delay, for the enemy are rallying to counterattack. Tensely you watch as a mass of leather-clad Hammerlanders, supported by a regiment of grim-faced Brigandi, advance up the hill. The palace guard link their shields and prepare to welcome the enemy with sharpened steel. Onward they come, their banners held high, their war horns filling the air with a noisy clangor. They surge forward, and with a yell, the front rank slams into the shield wall. Sword blades fly, striking sparks and drawing blood. Axes and maces fall with crushing blows. A knight falls dead at your side, and his slayer hurls himself through the gap. He scrambles to his feet and attacks you with his reddened blade. Nice. Nice. Okay. There's been a lot of fights, but we're managing. 4 men die before the shield wall knits together and the lost ground is regained. The Hammerlanders reel back and the Briganti surge forward, but they, too, cannot break through the palace guard. The trumpet sounds in the distance, and the prince's men cheer when they see their reserves streaming up the hill to support them. 200 Erran pikemen press forward behind their bristling steel and take the enemy in the flank. The attack is devastating. The enemy are split asunder and swept from the slope. The pikemen halt, and through their ranks, a wave of archers moves forward to fire at the backs of the retreating foe. Retreat turns to rout as the Hammerlanders and Briganti flee the field in chaos. On to Setzer! Right, we've been here before, haven't we? So we can kind of skip all those fights by going the other way. We probably should. We're on 6 health. Fuck, we're gonna die. It would be better if we... Yeah, don't ride out cavalry. Yeah, we died. Alright. I'm figuring out what the best path is here, but... okay. Alright, take sword, bow. Dagger is quite useful actually. Comes up a lot. Curing, hunt mastery. Alright, so we don't take a sword this time. We take a bow and a quiver. And a rope and a potion and a potion. Alright, so we go with Prince. We decline, we go to the tent, we go here, here. Don't mount the horse. What if we went to King Sarnak's camp? That sounds like cowardice. I don't know. Just try it and see what happens. You mount your horse and set off towards King Sarnak's headquarters at a gallop. On your ride, you pass the survivors of the regiment who were blasted at the bridge. Deeply shocked, they stand in groups or cower on the ground like frightened animals. The horror on their faces and the sound of their whimpering sickens your heart. As you cross the road and climb towards the king's tent, a Lentian cavalry officer comes riding down the hill towards you. He seems to recognize you and calls for you to stop. Alright. I come from King Sarnak, says the officer, his voice full of urgency. I must find your prince and request that he commit his reserves at once in support of our knights assaulting the bridge. Well, that's what I've come to say. Our spearmen are already engaged in a desperate attack at the orchard, and the rest of our retainers have been used to support our cavalry advance on the right flank. We have but less than 100 men, fewer than 100 men, left to save our noblemen, who are being slaughtered at the bridge. You tell the officer where the prince and his palace guard are fighting, of their victory and of the desperate situation they now face. I understand, says the officer sadly. I cannot expect the prince to allow his reserves to be used when he needs them so urgently himself. Alright, we can try going with him. Oh my god, -8. Both you and the Lentian officer, whose name is Captain Prague, ride back and forth, rallying the few soldiers left to support the hard-pressed knights locked in battle at the bridge. A motley company of crossbowmen, halberdiers, wounded men-at-arms, wagon drivers, cooks, heralds, and the battle-shocked pikemen are finally assembled, and they march forward with their shields raised and their weapons poised. Even the cooks? On your left, the prince's reserves respond to a signal from the hill and advance to support their leader. On your right, massed ranks of Lentian spearmen are locked in pitched combat. the length of the orchard wall. As you near the bridge, you encounter the bodies of those slain by the crackling rays of electric fire. The sight of their tortured forms, weapons fused in their lifeless hands, sends a wave of shock through your company. "Forward, men!" shouts Captain Prague. "Raise your eyes and advance." The bridge looms out of the battle smoke ahead, and your men surge towards the macabre struggle taking place. The bodies of the dead lie 6 deep, covering the whole area of the approach and filling the ditch on either side. War cries roar with harsh anger, and the air is alive, and the clangor of striking steel and the howl of violent death. "Charge!" you shout, and the company pours across the bridge. Reinforced by fresh troops, the knights finally break through the barricade and into the streets beyond. The struggle grows ever more intense as the Dracarim defenders throw themselves into the fray with total disregard for their lives. One such defender, an elite Dracarim Death Knight, hacks his way through the leading pikemen and slays your horse with one terrible blow of his two-handed axe. As you fall, he draws back his weapon, its razor-sharp blade trailing scarlet spray, and prepares to strike at your neck. We're gonna die. No. Alright, well don't go down that path then. Oh yeah, because I didn't have the weapon. Maybe we should try that part, because it'll be like -1 instead of -1 instead of -8. Stormy, heading to bed. But first, how many books are there? 29, and we're on book 10, so we're like a third of the way through, and they're getting harder. These books are taking me hours now of restarts. Yeah, it'll take me into the next year to finish them. I mean, next month I'm not going to do this streaming. I'm going to be doing coding streams instead, so... Alright. See you next time, Stormy. Alright, we'll take... Alright, we'll try that again, but instead we'll take a weapon. Because that fight is actually doable. Alright, so let's get back to that point. So we observe. And then we want to write to king. Then we do that. We do this. Alright, now he's -1 instead of -8. That's like reasonable. And the odds are in favor of us. Nice. All around you, the battle rages. Having lost the bridge, the Dracarim draw together in desperate groups and attempt to throw barricades across the narrow street, while Captain Prague rallies the pikemen and leads an attack along the main street in an effort to break through one of these hastily built defenses. Gather about you a score of men and enter an alley to your left in pursuit of a handful of retreating Dracarim Death Knights. On the other side of the alley is a line of burnt-out cottages. Their soot-blackened walls are mostly intact, although their roofs have long been open to the sky. Fleeing Dracarim are beginning to outdistance your men, and you fear they will get away, when suddenly they halt and turn to face you. At that instant, a mass of leather-clad Hammerlanders emerge from the cottages, rending the air with their howling battle cries. They strike your men from every side, catching them like helpless fish in a barrel. God. They're gonna kill us. I want to escape. An narrow pathway branches away from the main alley, and you rush along it, barging aside a Hammerlander who appears suddenly from a doorway. The screams of your company and the clash of swords echo in the narrow confines of the passage as you make your escape swiftly towards the center of the town. The passage opens onto a wider street where a barn-like building stands at the corner. Crouching at a window on the upper floor is a Drakarium archer with an arrow notch ready. Oh, it's this guy. Okay. Alright, so now we know where this path leads, and it's... we know a quicker way to get here. See, and this would give us a dagger as well. Or a sword. Alright, let me do all this. Then we're here. Alright. 10 health though. Should we try wading across the ford? The water laps at your waist as you wade through the shallows, and the shouts and howls of your ambushers sing relentlessly in your ears. Arrows splash beside you or whistle past dangerously close. You are 3/4 of the way across when one shaft clips your neck and knocks you underwater. Zero is 10, so generally you want low but not 0. Alright. And then we're here. How healthy are we? -3. Not bad. Okay. The surviving... Have we been here before? This might be new territory. Alright, the surviving Drakarium scatter into the surrounding alleys, and you are able to advance towards the center of Torgar unopposed. The Palmyrians meet up with their regiment, and you continue along the dingy thoroughfare. It leads to an open square where a conical tower of iron points accusingly at the sky. Here, the flagstones vibrate to a continuous throbbing that beats like a gigantic pulse somewhere deep in the bowels of the city. The battle has drawn most of the Drakarium away from the square, and you have no difficulty in reaching the tower and entering it via an open archway. A corridor of steel lies beyond, empty save for the constant din that assails your ears. Countless passages lead off from the main corridor, all sloping downwards, and many occupied by Drakarium warriors. The passages are poorly lit, and it is easy to avoid your enemies until you reach a vast stairway bathed in a bright orange glow that radiates from a level below. You are about to descend when a shadow looms into view and a Drakarium officer appears at the foot of the stairs. Instantly, you press yourself to the wall and use all your Kai skills to mask your presence. He strides up the stairs, passing within a few feet of you, but miraculously he fails to notice you and continues without stopping. After wiping the sweat from your brow, you continue down the stairs. Beyond the staircase lies a circular parapet, which overlooks a huge cavernous crater. It is filled with thousands of human slaves toiling with pick and shovel deep in the sulphurous heart of Torgar. Their bodies are filthy and covered with sweat despite a freezing wind, which howls in the depths like a hungry wolf. Drakarium overseers urge them to greater effort, and the crack of their whips is answered by the slaves' anguished cries of pain. Angered by what you have seen, you leave the parapet and enter a dimly lit passage that descends to a door of black steel. A twist of the handle reveals that it is locked. You examine the lock and recognize its simple latch mechanism. Ooh, we should bring a dagger next time. Now, Torgar, snarls a voice in the corridor behind. What? I was killed for not having a specific thing? A dagger? Come on. You spin around to see two Drakarian warriors, both armed with loaded crossbows. Slowly, you let your hand drift towards your weapon, but your move does not go unnoticed. Suddenly, a starburst of pain explodes in your head, and darkness washes over your vision as you are slammed back against the door by the force of the bolt which has penetrated your skull. Death is instantaneous. Your life and your quest end here. Oh man, okay, we take a dagger next time, but that's oddly specific. I don't know where you get like the skeleton key or whatever. Alright, so definitely take dagger skill. Alright, so we take a bow and arrows and a rope and 2 potions. We go with the prince. Do that. Do that. Do that. 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 This. That. This, that. Take dagger, blanket, more arrows. Do this. Then we have to fight them. Damn it. I'm getting quite beat up here. Um, 18 health. Alright, so we can't die by swimming, so we'll just do that. We lost a lot of health there, but that's fine. Alright, what are we on? Okay, we're almost full health. That's good. We lose some health here, though. It's 3. We can manage this without potions. Okay. -8! Oh man, we got a bad roll there. When you are halfway down the staircase, a shadow looms into view. Seconds later, a Drakarian officer. What are we on? We're on 14 on this. Begins to ascend. He is the most repugnant human you have ever seen. His enormous bloated body bulges with overdeveloped muscles to the point of deformity, and his face is puffy and fat, shiny with sweat and pitted with disease. A battle wound on his right cheek is scarred badly, drawing that side of his face into an ugly sneer. He sees you and unsheathes a massive saw-edged scimitar as he strides up the stairs and attacks. You kidding me? Alright, this is bad. Let's use this. Alright. Dead. We can't fight him. There's no chance of beating him. We just have to hope we don't roll whatever that roll was. Alright, so we take bow, arrows, rope, potion. Go with the prince. Alright, take the dagger. If we shoot... No, just swim. We should end up at full health for these battles then. Almost, because we get hurt here. And then we can survive this. Oof, that's pretty bad. Oh, I lost? We had the odds there, but I just lost. Wonderful. Imagine not taking curing. How stupid would that be? Alright. Quiver, rope. Potion. Oh, we got the 1 in 5 chance of just dying. Oh. Alright. Bow. Quiver. Rope. Potion. Alright, how much can we heal here? 18. Oh, bollocks. Just got disconnected. I died. Right. We're getting to the repetitive stage now. Curing, pump off 3. Alright, let's go. Alright, bow. Without rope. Pushing. Pushing. Alright. Might be at full health for this next bit. Before I continue, 30, yeah, we're at full health, so should be able to beat this one. Oh no! No, 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 no! 0 to 6. Is the fight. We need more health. Oh, we've basically lost. -8. Bollocks. Alright, change that to -6. There's a low chance of avoiding him. Stupid. And this is with max combat skill. Since we're getting the same stuff every time, maybe I should just make a save. at the same point where we reach every time because that's like within the rules. So if I do sword, bow, dagger, curing, hunt mastery. Oh, but this is random. Alright, so we choose our stuff first. So let's say bow with a rope, potion. And then before I choose the money, just make a save here so that we don't have to do all that again. Alright, that saves some time. Not too bad. Who are those horsemen? Anyway, maybe I should meet them. If I don't help him, I just die? Damn, I was sure that helping him would kill me. It's just so many insta-deaths. Alright, load. Load. Where's... Go. So, yeah. Damn. What are we on? 27. Alright. Yes, we bypassed that guy. Alright, so we don't have those. We do have a dagger. Where does this take us? It takes several minutes to pick the lock using your dagger, and in doing so, you snap the tip off and ruin the blade. Alright. The door opens onto a passageway lined with torches. Halfway along the left wall, you see another door. A solid slab of iron, broken only by a small barred window. Silently approach it and peer in through the grill. It says if you used the dagger of Vashna to pick the lock, then you have to throw it away. But it says you may choose to ignore the instruction. No, that's cheating. The story says the tip breaks, so you have to throw it away. Don't cheat. Right. You see a dank dungeon cell and a prisoner sitting cross-legged on the cold stone floor. His dark skin is covered with tiny scars, and his plaited flaxen hair is matted with grime and dried blood. Wearily, he raises his head, and his sharp cat-like eyes glint in the torchlight. At once, you recognize his distinctive features. He is a Vaqueros, a native warrior magician of Desi. You step back to examine the lock and notice that the key to this cell is hanging on a hook beside the door. Alright, we'll release him. Vaqueros is overjoyed at the prospect of being rescued from this dreadful place. He has languished here for a year since being captured by agents of the Dark Lords. His name is Paido. Paido? And although you tell him that you are an Eroran Pathfinder, he recognizes your accent and your strong Somlending features. You may wear Eroran cloth, but you are not a native of that land, he says, suspecting that you've been sent to trick him. But we know Paido. What do you mean? We know him. I'm sorry, what? So there was one book where you're with Paido. There's no avoiding it. Like, you spend the whole book with him. He's your partner. Why does he not know us? Is this just a writing error? What? We know Paido. So you are Lone Wolf, he says, bowing respectfully. I am honored to meet you, though I would have wished for happier circumstances. I think I know why you have come to Torgar. Is it not to take the golden gems which Dark Lord Knarg sent here? Yes, you reply. They are the lore stones of my ancestors, and I vowed to retrieve them. I must fulfill my vow, for it is vital to the future safety of both our lands that Knarg be prevented from destroying them. He knows this. He helped us get one of the lore stones before. Makes no sense. Slowly a smile spreads across Paido's face. I will help you, Lone Wolf, he says, his warrior pride restored by the thought of avenging his cruel imprisonment. I know where these lore stones are being held, and I will take you there. Alright, we're actually quite healthy as well. We still got the potions. Stealthily, you follow Paido through the dungeons of Torgar, using the shadows to avoid being seen. Ragged columns of slaves stumble along the passages, dragging their tortured, half-starved bodies to and from the work pits. They are beaten, cursed, and whipped relentlessly by their Jackaram guards, who seem to delight in their suffering. You emerge from a corridor into the shadows of a circular chamber where a staircase ascends to a pair of huge, triangular iron doors guarded by a squad of Drakarim Death Knights. A tingling sensation electrifies your skin as your senses detect the presence of the lore stone somewhere behind these doors. Suddenly, an alarm bell fills the chamber with a deafening clangor. The Death Knights begin to descend the stairs, and your stomach churns with the fear that you have been detected. The plate-armored warriors reach the bottom of the stairs and begin running in your direction as fast as their heavy equipment will allow. Their ox-like leader urges them on with the words, Gaz Dag, Gaz Agar Kuzim Okim Der Tagog. Maybe they haven't seen us. We'll stay still. The Death Knights tramp past your hiding place and hurry out of the chamber. Paido breathes a sigh of relief as the sound of their heavy footfalls is quickly lost in the noise of the alarm bell. But only when you are sure you are alone do you leave your hiding place and approach the triangular doors. You pull a metal bar set into the wall, and the huge lead-lined doors rumble open to reveal an incredible sight. Before you stands a domed chamber, its ceiling crisscrossed with gantries of rusted iron. At its center is a circular black pit around which are gathered groups of ghoulish creatures clad in transparent robes and masks. Angled upwards from the floor are slender crystal rods that glow with green fire. They pour forth a constant stream of pencil-thin light which focuses at a point directly above the center of the pit. Your eyes are drawn to this point, for here you can see the 3 remaining lore stones of Nixator, the objects of your quest. What, 3 of them? Held suspended in a ball of flickering green flame. The harsh clang of the alarm bell and the sudden sight of you silhouetted in the doorway has startled the creatures. They slink away from the pit and escape through an archway, leaving you and Paedo alone in the chamber. Cautiously, you approach the edge of the pit and look down into its midnight depths. No light penetrates the blackness, and no sounds can be heard in this seemingly bottomless abyss. Above you, the Lordstones hang suspended in a ball of green flame, beyond reach from the ground, but within a hand's breadth of the gantries which crisscross above the pit. Should we examine the rods? You sense that the crystal rods are generating a powerful charge of negative energy. The Lordstones are being bombarded with this energy in the hope it will eventually destroy them. If you are to retrieve the Lordstones safely, you must first shut off this power. However, by doing so, you would remove the means by which they're being kept suspended in the air, and they would then fall into the pit. We'll just put like a blanket in front then. Oh, we've got a blanket! You notice there is a spot where a gantry passes directly over the ball of green flame. If you could crawl to that spot, you would be able to cup your hands below the Lordstones. Paedo could then destroy the crystal rods, and the Lordstones, free of the energy beams, would drop into your hands. The blanket! This is perfect use of the blanket! It is a bold plan, but you feel confident that it will succeed. The corroded iron gantry shakes violently as you inch away nearer to the flaming green ball. Once you are in position, you call to Paedo, and one by one, he smashes the crystal rods. As each rod is broken, its beam disappears and the fireball grows weaker. The golden light of the Lordstones begins to radiate through the evil green flames, and when Paedo has destroyed half the rods, one of them tips and falls into your waiting hands. Immediately, a wave of energy courses through your body, filling you with renewed strength and sharpening your thoughts and perceptions. You shout encouragement to your companion, and he raises his head to reply, but his words are drowned by a harsh and terrible voice. "Vengeance is mine, Lone Wolf," booms the thunderous voice. Terror strikes deep in your heart when you turn and see the ghastly form of Dark Lord Gnarg, filling the archway through which his minions escaped when you first entered the chamber. A ghastly rasping laugh echoes from his fly-like head as he raises a black crystal and points it at the gantry. "The vow I gave at Tahu shall be fulfilled. Now I shall destroy you and the Lordstones." There is a deafening crack, and a bolt of blue lightning streaks from the stone held in his pincer-like claw. It shears through the rusty metal, and you are peppered with red-hot iron splinters. As the shockwave hits the weakened ball of fire, the two Lordstones are sent tumbling into the black abyss. Then a second bolt from the black stone tears the gantry in two, and with the ghastly laugh of Dark Lord Gnarg ringing in your ears, you plummet headlong into the icy-cold pit. You've fallen into a portal of total darkness, a shadow gate that leads to the twilight world of Dazian. The wisdom and strength of the Lordstone of Luomi is now part of your body and spirit, and the last remaining Lordstones are still within your reach, but your descent into the Dazian heralds the beginning of a deadly, supernatural episode of the Magna Kai quest. If you have the courage of a true Kai master, the wonders and the horrors of the Twilight Plane await you in Book 11, the penultimate Magna Kai adventure entitled The Prisoners of Time. Wow. So next time we will start like in the thick of things, falling into an abyss with these things, although we don't have a melee weapon. But otherwise, we've got decent stats and stuff. We've got a rope. Would be useful when falling into an abyss. We've got some good potions. We've managed to keep them the whole way through. Pretty good. Blanket. And 2 quivers. Right. Not bad. We're quite healthy. Did we not start at full health? Yeah, we did. Okay. Alright. Alright, next time. See you next time, Lone Wolf.